Hello everyone and welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series. We are back for match day 4 for NA and we have some big names in our groups ready to face off against each other again. We should be in store for some very exciting gameplay today, so I can't wait to dive into all of it. My name is Glitter Explosion and I'll be your host today. And of course, we've got to bring the boys back in as well, Onset and Gaskin. Mark, what do you expect out of NA here today?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think that's the beauty of the Apex Legends Global Series is split, right? Because you get a little bit of a pattern emerging, and then we have the POI draft, which changes everything. So we're not sure how certain teams are going to perform from certain POIs. So that's the wonder of this split. We're all learning along the way. And one thing we can guarantee is that we have some of the biggest names, like you said, in this lobby, and they're going to be looking for blood. I think it's going to be a really good day of action today in North America.
Yeah, I can't wait to see exactly how all of it plays out. But Dan, I know you've been really excited for this re-matchup, if you will. So just how important is this week for some of these teams?
I don't know. No, I think that the fact that we have 8 of the 10 in the top 10 competing in A and B means that this is going to be very important to try and be at the top of the leading pack. We already know Spacestation and Falcons are the top 2 at the moment, but if you're a team like TSM, who is just kind of behind them, can you catch them up today by outperforming them? It is going to be important, and it's going to be exciting.
I love that point. Not only right outside that kind of top bubble, but TSM, a team specifically coming off of a very solid match day last time around. So lots of factors to be taking into consideration here. But like we saw in EMEA, lots of things went down since the last time we saw each other. NA saw some changes as well. So let's talk about our NA mid-season mayhem, because we have some team updates, we have some roster changes, and we have to break them all down for you. First things first, with these team name changes, Tripods will now be under the banner of Pioneers, okay? And then the Edgers will now be the Fluffy Aimers. 2 big changes here for our squads. Big pickup there for Tripods and the Edgers as well. So that should keep things really interesting, as we've seen this week alone start to really bring in all of these new orgs into the competitive ALGS universe. And if we're, talking about all of these, they've already been talked about on social media as well. Let's actually take a quick look at this announcement trailer from the Pioneers.
We have a big story that is unfolding right now.
When the calls are flowing, when the comms are loud, when the guns are shooting, I genuinely don't think there's a single team in any of these lobbies that can hang with us. We got some more work to put in. The job ain't finished, all right? Hey, chat. The job ain't fucking finished, dog.
I'm going through changes, living so dangerous. They saying he famous. I keep telling myself I'm the best with the aim. They saying it's criminal, they do the minimal. I'm just a general, keep it subliminal. Break them the minerals, keeping it cynical, keeping it moving in the speed of.
Bro, they tried to grief us. They almost got us too. They almost got us.
Feeling amazing. Take to the top and we making a profit. Feeling amazing. We just living our life and we keeping it real. Feeling amazing. We ain't never gonna stop and we living it up. Raising the temperature, counting your days in. Feeling amazing. Take to the top and we never gonna stop it. Feeling amazing. Take to the top and we making a profit. Feeling amazing. We just living our life and we keep it real. Feeling amazing. We ain't never gonna stop and we living it up.
Oh, pissed off.
Nice little hype trailer there, welcoming Tripods to that Pioneers universe, if you will. And so just another instance of our team starting to get picked up as things are really kicking off heading into through the rest of the year for competitive Apex Legends. But that was just the team side of changes that we have going on here so far. Now let's take a look at some of our roster changes as well. There's quite a few going on here, Mark.
There certainly is, and there's some really, really notable names who are finding themselves with new homes. We're going to start off with Not Moist, and well, they've added Timmy. A big change coming over from DSG. You can now see the lineup. MT stepping down. You've got Waltzy, you've got Guild, and you've got Timmy. Probably one of the biggest moves we've seen in quite some time, and done extremely late as well. Catching DSG off guard a little bit. They've got some work to do, obviously, to kind of restore the name, and I'm sure they'll be out for some revenge if a little 3v3 goes down today as well. And then we've got the return of the man on your screen, Snipe Down in the middle. McLovin will be leaving Native Gaming and Snipe Down will be joining them. So RKM will now be IGLing alongside Rambo and Snipe Down. That is some serious firepower that's been added now to Native Gaming. And then we mentioned DSG. We said that unfortunately, Timmy's not going to be part of that lineup anymore, but Zanail is going to come in, and he has been a player who has kind of quietly been one of the standouts for the teams that he's been on recently. So a very smart pickup, I would say, by DSG here. So Designful will be IGLing now, and you've got Enemy and Zanail as the second and third. And then finally, you have Eternal, where you're losing Carter, and you're adding McLovin. So Native, he leaves there, and he joins now onto Eternal.
Yeah, a lot can really happen in a week here. And as long as we're talking about all of these roster changes, we might as well check out another announcement video. This one specifically related to these roster changes was when Timmy officially announced his departure.
I, from this day, will be officially playing with Moist Esports. I'll be playing with Guild and Multi. MD has stepped down as their third, and those the boys at Moist have approached me, and I will be their third.
Obviously, that was a huge change there for everybody involved, but we got to see a nice tweet out of Designful here as well, Dan.
Yeah, I think the fact that, you know, Designful had a tweet like this, had a comment like this, really showed the bromance that was between Designful and Timmy and what it meant to be able to partner together for so long, and the shame to see them kind of split up. But sadly, that does happen sometimes. People move on to different things, try different rosters here or there, and the Disguised story from Dojo to Disguised and what they were able to do, build a fan base, it really was a brilliant one. But it's now the next journey for both Timmy and Designful, and I'm excited to see where both of them go from here.
Yeah, I think everybody's excited. And that was a perfect little segue there for me as well, Dan, because you mentioned bromances. Well, we've seen many a bromance formed over the years of competitive Apex. Not only have they created amazing friendships, they've built these amazing teams. And one of those top teams that had a fantastic friendship as a core part of it was Not Moist. So let's take a look at the journey that MT and Waltzy have been on over the years.
Moist! Take back-to-back wins! Because Not Moist take the game!
And Moist have pulled off the unthinkable.
Singularity trying to clean up the pieces, but Moist holds strong! Look at the down! Walking on you! I can't believe it!
Other side of you been. What's in there? What's in there?
You're punching him into the circle! Gets it again! Moist win!
MT, Mr. 360.
You guys are so good.
Later in the hand of Waltzy. Absolutely gonna take down. Oh, that beam!
I think Waltzy's could be arguably the best controller player.
Oh my! Waltzy does it for ANC!
Just comes down to like trusting MD, trusting the process, trusting the calls.
Oh! The beam coming in from MT.
Yes, let's go!
So obviously after that roster change, they'll still be continuing on with that amazing relationship, just in a slightly different capacity. But I mean, just lots of really cool things for us to talk about here as we get into our first match of the day. Before we start getting into those, though, let's talk about the teams participating here. We've mentioned it quite a few times. This is a crazy lobby here, Mark. So let's talk about some of the squads.
I mean, you look at this lobby and you can pick a lot of names out you just expect to be in LAN finals, and that's how competitive North America is. You got to remember, this is just two groups. You've got Group C sitting there as well saying, hey, what about us as well? But they're going to be playing tomorrow, not today. I mean, you're looking across the names. You've got Team Falcons. They're top of the leaderboards at the moment. The super team, the team that wears capes in my mind, well, they're going to be looking to add another win to their collection today. And then you've got, again, the debut of Not Moist, right? Timmy joining the lineup. You've got Pioneers with the new org. You've got Complexity. Lou went absolutely insane, fragging out the last time that we saw him on our screens as well. And then you're not even mentioning TSM, and that's pretty crazy. And the SSG, take your pick, honestly. It is that that nuts at the moment. NRG, Mose, take your pick, Lauren. Take your pick. Who do you want?
I think the only team that isn't there that's in the conversation of being at the top is Furia. Everyone else is here competing in A and B. Another team I want to give a shout out to, SKD, with Raven as the coach now. I am really excited for where this team goes and how they progress. Some amazing players. They've been doing fantastically so far, and I really do think that they can be a real threat in these two groups.
That's a really nice shout there as well. We'll take a look at the standings that everyone is referring to right now. Team Falcons, that super team, being at the top, but right on their heels is SSG, only 3 points behind them. Both of those teams playing here today. Furia tied with TSM. I mean, you mentioned how TSM is a team that's right there in that top 3 bubble, and today, after a really strong match day, maybe they're able to kind of continue with that momentum. But all those names at the top of this table, it's a scary top 10, and a pretty close one once you get down to 3 through 10 as well. As we take a look at page number 2, this is where things start to even out a little bit here, Mark.
Yeah, they certainly do. The wonderful thing, like I mentioned in MPIRE as well, is that series played is the same for everyone. So we get a real good indication of form, how teams are playing, how they've managed to put some points on the board, and what teams going into, you know, the game days after that first round robin, and looking at things and going, hey, we need to start performing a little bit better. And I've got my eyes on Cloud9 a little bit there, Dan, because they're putting some pretty good performances in scrims recently.
There is a few teams who have performed well in scrims, but just haven't quite found the points when they get into these competitive lobbies. But that, of course, can all change today. A few of the team changes are going to have a keen eye on what they do. If they're not competing today, they will be playing tomorrow as well. At the moment, Not Moist, they're down in 25th, but will the addition of Timmy change their fortunes? Will they be able to push themselves up a little bit higher in the leaderboards?
Yeah, I mean, that's an important point. We have an Apex-packed weekend, so if you're looking forward to today, we've got even more action in store for you tomorrow to continue figuring out where our teams will land in that overall leaderboard. But let's start focusing down on some of those squads. I know we could pretty much just list off the entirety of both of these groups at this point with how strong some of our teams are, but talk to me about somebody you might be focusing on specifically here, Mark.
Well, I'm going to look and focus on SSG. Spacestation Gaming, one of my favorite orgs in all of esports. Well, the team is playing pretty phenomenally right now as well. And if you're looking across their performances so far, they're right up there in the top half of the leaderboard, right up there in the top 2 of the leaderboards in the overalls. And looking at their first game day, they came in 3rd place, 50 points overall, and they were playing from Dome on World's Edge as well. So something to note, a very bad POI for them to have to play with. They managed to get 2nd, 3rd, and 5th as their best games the last 2 times that these lobbies matched up. But it was A and C where they really shone, playing from Sky East and Elrod with a match day win. They've got 2 wins on the board in that match day. They managed a 5th on World's Edge as well before they kind of fell away a little bit on Storm Point. But I mean, today they're playing from Sky East and they're playing from Pylon. So even though they might not have the best picks in the world when it comes to POIs, there's still some pretty solid POIs to play from. So very excited to see what SSG do as we take a little look at some of their stats as well. You can see match wins overall, they've managed to put those 2, average placement of 8.33, average kills is pretty good, but it's the damage difference which you got to focus on. That shows that they're fighting well as a unit and fighting well as a team.
Well, similarly to SSG, Complexity are another team who found success in A and C, but couldn't quite get it done in A and B. So now as they get a second go around, will they take the experience from last week and be able to push themselves a little bit further? Because they got top 3 last week, they got a win in the final game, so momentum is certainly on their side. Last time they had, 7th and 36th picks. I think this week, 6th and 35th. So I'm expecting them to be more World's Edge heavy because that was their first pick. They went for launch site in the end, but they will be fighting in Storm Point because they've gone for Storm Catcher, which is on average about 30th in the ADP of where people are picking it in the POI draft. So it's one of the more tough POIs to be fighting for, but they do have Lou, who fights very well for them indeed, leading in the kill leaderboard right now, 32 kills, only beating the 3 members of Falcons. Well, someone has to take them down, right? It seems like Lou is doing it as a one-man army, just based on those stats, but we know full well the entire Complexity roster is the reason why Lou is able to shine in the way that he currently does. And what a story it has been for Lou. He's had his ups, he's had his downs, but he seems to be back on his A game, back on a team that he's comfortable with, and I can't wait to see what they do here today, Glitter.
Yeah, 2 really strong team choices as far as ones that everyone should be paying attention to, as I'm sure it was hard for you 2 to choose, and same for everyone at home picking their teams that they want to be focusing on. But don't worry, we have a way for you to focus on multiple of your favorite teams here today, okay? Because we know how stacked these groups are, so if you want to keep up with any of of the other amazing teams, just check out FACEIT Watch. Not only can you watch 4 team POVs simultaneously, but you also have that dedicated map POV and of course live team comms with that audio mixer, so you can balance the audio the exact way that you want it and experience ALGS your way. It's a very, very cool way to watch, so make sure you check it out. You can head on over to fce.gg/watch ALGS to get that all set up and enjoy our entire series of matches here today. And speaking of those matches, it's almost time for them to get kicked off, ready to go. So onset, Gasket, I hope you're ready for NA.
I am so ready to get into North America. I am ready for things, Dan. You can probably tell by the start of the show, I am almost too excited because there's a few segments that you were meant to talk on that I talked straight over the top of. So I'd like to apologize for that early on and give you a chance to finally get some words out.
You can never be too excited. An excited onset means that we are due for a very good day and a very good evening here in North America, and for good reason. Like I mentioned, 8 out of the 10 of our top teams in this region all competing here today, so I am expecting it to be a bloodbath. I am expecting everyone to be throwing their best foot forward here to try and ensure they can be at the top of the leaderboards after these 2 teams have competed, because it's going to be difficult to find points when there are this many good teams in this lobby, Mark.
Yeah, it is a fantastic lobby to look at as well. You just look at some of the names, and like I said previously, you can pick half the lobby and you're expecting them to be in a LAN final. We're still missing one of the groups in North America, and this is where we're going to be starting today, everybody. World's Edge is going to be where we kick off for 3 games before we head over to Storm Point, and then we have to get into the good business now, Dan. We have to talk POI draft.
POI draft, and that's usually what gets me going because I love the stats, I love the numbers, and I love the addition of the POI draft. Who'd have thought Sky West picked first from NRG?
Shocking.
Biggest difference, though, from EMEA into NA is Climatizer East seems to be a very popular inclusion here in North America. Complexity that I touched upon at the start of the show, they had their first pick at launch site, so this is where they're expecting to pick up their points. But for any of these teams who are kind of in the early picks, expect World's Edge to be their bigger and better map, but it's going to be more of a struggle as they go over to Storm Point.
It certainly is indeed. As we go down the picks and you see some of the more, I would say, established POIs start to disappear, you're also going to see some of the bigger names coming in as well as we move on, because you're looking at the likes of, you're looking at like Team Falcons, you're looking for where they're dropping, you're looking for where TSM are going to be dropping. I mean, there's so much to talk about today when it comes to these POI drafts and where people are dropping that just changes the complexion of everything, Dan. And one thing to note as well that I kind of coined a term a little bit earlier in EMEA, if you are lucky enough to get a good zone, a zone that pulls to you when you have one of these poorer POIs when it comes to picks, that's a golden game opportunity for you to put points on the board from a POI that you don't really expect to do it from.
And these are the later picks that you were speaking of. So the teams who prioritized Storm Point and instead got later picks on World's Edge, TSM at Mirage Etoile, Falcons down at Dome. Now remember, in EMEA, we have still not seen Dome chosen as a drop spot for anyone. Yet in North America, people seem to think it is actually better than maybe Stacks, for example, or you're happy to take the fight against someone at Stacks. So we'll see what Falcons do from that. I'm very excited to see where Falcons go from Dome.
I also want to say that SSG getting Sky East at pick 23, pretty good from them. I think they would have been very happy to see that still available. So SSG with an opportunity to do something here on World's Edge. And I think you're right. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Falcons and how they play from the Dome as well. And they do have a couple of teams around them. Maybe they feel confident in taking those fights, but one of them might not be Complexity with the way that Lou has been firing his guns recently. But enough of the POI draft. We've seen the teams. We've seen who's in this lobby. It's time to get underway, everybody. Match day is nearly ready to go. And I tell you what, Dan, World's Edge, it always looks as beautiful as the last time I saw it.
It just hits different, doesn't it, World's Edge? I always like it when it's in the rotation in ranked as well. It seems to be home for not just me, but many players in Apex Legends. Now, I am curious as to where Falcons go with their rotation, but at the moment we're going to focus on Not Moist, because the inclusion of Timmy, this is a big change, right? Not Moist were a roster who dominated in the region for quite some time during Split 1, but perhaps didn't have the result they would have wanted or expected when it came to the playoffs. But now with Timmy on the bang, I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, also interesting to point out as well, you've got Guild and Timmy, both North Americans. Is this now a North American team? Genome. Waltzy is going to be the lone survivor from ANZ. I'm sure that he'll still be supporting his boy, of course, understandably so. But Waltzy going to be taking up the IGLing on this team as well. MT historically, of course, was the IGL for Not Moist, and it's a big change for him. He put a tweet out saying, you know, he's going to put the hard work in and everything that he has to do, and he believes in himself to do so. Well, he's going to have to navigate the traffic on World's Edge here to head a little bit towards Fragment.
Yeah, Fragment is where we're going to be going. There's a little bit that's within Geyser, so that makes me think that we might head over towards No Name as the end circle here. So the likes of Yup and Weave and NGNL actually are all going to have priority to move there. And you can see Weave dropping at Overlook have already made their way down to No Name, and they should have got that ring console up at Overlook, so they'll be the first ones to take one of the buildings, and they should be able to sit there for quite some time. But of course, with a No Name finish, not too many buildings to work with, so a lot of the surrounding areas in Fragment and in Geyser are going to be desirable for those who rotate late, but then they're going to have to force their way in when the zone eventually shifts.
Yeah, good news on the pathing as well from Overlook. Not only did they have the ring console, they also had Survey Beacon, and as you can see, as they path their way towards where they want to play, they had a Evo Harvester as well. So they'll have at least blues, pretty close to purples, you would imagine, as they're already set up inside of this building. So a really good opportunity for early points on the board for them. Elsewhere, you've just seen a little bit of a slow rotate from some teams who recognize that maybe there's not a huge amount of zone to play where they believe it's going to finish, and maybe Fragment is going to become a little bit more packed as we get through the game. A couple of teams hitting the evacs in, but for now, a little bit of a slow burner at the start, as we would expect. Not too many fights been taken. You can see already less than 1,000 Evo damage needs to be done here by Weave for them to get up to purples.
Well, good news for Weave is they have the Watson, so they can really set up in this building, and they can ruin everything for anyone who wants to arrive late and try and take the position away from them as the early movers. The story's more going to be focused on those who are going to be moving a little bit later and potentially fighting in chokes and surrounding areas. The Harvester area at the moment is where a fight is currently going down. LG against Board, and LG have that high ground.
Oh, we also see a strong push, shall we say, at the least, coming in as we put some more damage from distance. Unfortunately, only the one times on the scout is going to make it a little bit more difficult, but it's E8 who are being so aggressive to try and take this truck position away.
Yeah, E8 may be seeing an opportunity here, and the knockdown shields are almost doing something similar to what we saw last week, but it's Eternal who go down. Elevate only lose one, and they'll be able to get back up to a full 3 here, and if they want to, they can hold this truck for the rest of the game. But with the aggression we just saw, will they consider carrying on with this wave, right? Do they push even further into No Name and potentially take the fight against Weave?
One thing they're going to have to do is play a little bit of space around that truck, because they don't have the catalyst to reinforce the doors, so it's very, very nadeable for inside of that truck. They do have the fuse, who can, of course, was very useful in that initial push, of course, just to fire those knuckle clusters in to get that damage to really discombobulate the team that was inside. But you've got to use now the fuse and the knuckle cluster to kind of command space in and around that truck, because just setting up inside it with those doors already gone, it's a risky spot to play.
How about the Pioneers being reintroduced to Apex Legends as well? Welcome back. 255 days away from Apex, and what a team to pick up. Tripods who get in through Challenger Circuit in the final game and now find themselves competing in the biggest and the best lobby, and they do not look shy in this lobby as well. Happy to take fights, really rolling with the big boys, and I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the season. And in this game at the moment, moving from the northern side, they might just be able to pick off a few teams that are going to be below them here.
Well, yeah, you have to be careful, because Deeds has got himself a long boy, and he's going to be able to do some good damage if he does see those doors gone and the windows available for him to poke a few shots through as well. But it looks like maybe another evac for them to try and play with. I'm not sure where they want to try and play from here, if they're going to try and go into Overlook or maybe the truck, but
doesn't matter.
They're going to go nowhere. They landed on the snow. It was a soft landing. They wanted to stay here, regardless of what they tell you.
I mean, I think if they had arrived in No Name and then they could run it back, they probably would rather stay on the height, judging by how congested it is at the moment, right? So it's probably a blessing in disguise for them. But it was Not Moist and other teams who all banded together to shoot down that evac tower, not allowing Pioneers to make a aerial rotation. And you spoke about the long boy. How about the sensors?
Yeah, that's not bad either, to be honest with you. I mean, the size of the projectiles that come out when you charge this thing up, it makes it pretty difficult to miss at times. But even from that distance, Timmy makes it look easier. Nice little 88 to really make sure that he's pushing that team away through the tunnel. And It looks like Pioneers are going to head towards Overlook. Maybe they're looking to hit the ring console and the survey beacon as well that is available before they pop back into a position in zone. OXG, Oxygen Esports, haven't talked about them much so far. Frex, of course, being an addition to this lineup for this split, and had some pretty solid performances so far.
Yeah, 15th in the POI draft, choosing Lava Fissure, which, you know, a not bad POI to go with in general. I think that they'll be fairly happy with it. They're going to be in the kind of mid-ground for both POIs on both maps. So I'm expecting Oxygen to find an average performance, but it's whether they can find something that's just a little bit further to push them into the chances of winning today's efforts. Now, this is the big shift that we're waiting for. I think it is going to be No Name. There is always a potential chance it can shift back north, but it is going to keep going further towards No Name. It could continue to pull towards the eastern side as well. We have seen it finish over towards the eastern side, more towards the vault, but certainly where Complexity, Empire, Weave, they're all holding at the moment, they're in great positions.
We can see as well that Falcons are pushing their way from Geyser through the tunnel. If they can hold that for quite some time, then they'll be in a really good spot. Fluffy Aimers might think about rotating behind them a little bit later, but it looks like they're going to take a slightly different approach. So Yup, who are already in the kind of tunnels complex, I'll call it, now that it's a little bit more difficult to navigate, they're gonna maybe have to deal with Falcons at some point, but they're playing outside of it to the north side, so Falcons should have control of this vault tunnel for quite some time, and they're going to be in a really good spot for this endgame with everybody kind of, by the looks of things, approaching from the north side here of World's Edge.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anyone's going to come from the south, so that will be good and bad news for Falcons. Good news because they're not going to be contested down in the vault, but also maybe bad news because then you don't pick up any kills, but it looks like Falcons on their rotation at the moment are trying to find a better place to play on the edge of that vault tunnel. As for Not Moist, this is the northern side that you were speaking of. SSG aren't so far away from them, and I think that's why Not Moist are hesitant to move right now, because they know there's someone nearby. They've just seen SSG again, but now seeing them retreating means that Not Moist should know they're the only team on the north.
Oh my goodness. Well, ACP do hit another evac and manage to get into this building, but by the skin of their teeth, that could not be closer. Deeds was down to 5 or 6 HP. Everyone else has to pop some batteries and some cells to get healthy again, but they do have the caustic this time. Deeds running the caustic to lock down this building. So a very successful redeploy from the skies for them to find a spot to play.
Yeah, the teams who have the controller legends are going to be pretty happy with this circle if they have been able to get into one of these buildings in No Name, or even in Fragment, to be fair, on the edges of Fragment. You can hold it for quite some time. I think CCE also playing a caustic and holding the edges of the train track, as SSG, they've had to move all the way down this western side, and it's NRG that are now in front of them, and they might have to take this fight.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough rotate here for SSG. Interested to see what the play call is going to be from Phony. But one thing I want to actually say about SSG as they prepare to take this evac is I just love the natural chemistry in play styles that you have with all these three players, right? Phony loves to be aggressive as an IGL, probably about as aggressive a player as you would wish for. Zainu, we know what pedigree he has. He's a LAN champion and also loves to be aggressive. And I think Koiful just gives him that little bit of stability, that clutch factor that's sometimes missing in those 3v3s. You get that final kill. You're a little 1v1. You want Koiful to be that player alive, but for now, they're going to have to get him back on his feet.
They should be able to get up to a full 3 here. They're probably happy to see that these buildings are free, but they already know they're going to have to continue moving because they were able to get the ring console information thanks to Zainu choosing that option on the fuse, and they will continue to move east shortly. But it's a nice temporary pit stop for them to reset and potentially hold out teams that they could have fought on the outskirts of this circle. NRG and both SKD are going to now be arriving after them here.
Going to be an end zone where I think a lot of teams who are coming in from the north and maybe even the west side of World's Edge here are going to be thinking KP is the name of the game for us. Elsewhere, LG, they're making a very interesting rotate to follow here, as it looks like they're going to play for maybe this Evo Harvester that is in front of them. Maybe a little bit of extra ring console information, but the situation they find themselves in now, always craft a bat on your way past.
Medkit, probably.
Medkit, indeed. Smarter than me. Is an interesting decision to go back into the zone and wrap from this way.
Now, that's the difference between you and I. You already have plenty of medkits. I'm scrambling when we get into the circle. I'm desperate. I need something. I've not looted enough.
We're going through zone knowing I have 3 medkits.
But it is going to be a long old journey for them. We'll have to see if it pays off for LG. And as they do arrive late, it will be Not Moist that is the closest team to them. Biggest question for me, do Not Moist know that they're there? Because remember, when when Not Moist saw SSG a little bit earlier, they probably presumed they're the only team on the north. But we can have a little dive in to see what they are thinking about this game. Let's jump into a listen in.
Yep, can you before we do this, can you scan down below and see if there's a team underneath us?
Yes, I can. Yeah, they're playing out front of tunnel right now. 3 seconds, I'm gonna scan below, okay?
Yep.
Scanning.
Taking things to see what's in.
There's a team under right now.
You need to queue this. You need to queue that. Make sure that they can't come up.
We're in at the rock there, Timmy. We don't have to int right now. We can wait until this zip is out of zone, and then we look to take the fight, okay?
Yep. Well,
do as much poke to them as you can.
They do have blue. I have
Yeah. Perfect. It's a fucking Watson team.
This guy also has blue-purple down there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just letting you know.
We hold this zip, and we look to fight this team later. We win this fight, and then we fucking have a very good game here.
Yep, they're just holding their inside, I'm pretty sure. So they have to worry about that. It's also the team that mirrored us.
That's fine. That's fine.
Mirrors. Yep.
Shoot them off as well. We walk in front of us. We're not pressured for space right now.
They have purple. I'm just letting you know.
That's FACEIT.
They're probably gonna go low ground towards. They're probably gonna go low ground towards the tunnel. We can walk in here if we have to.
We should try to shoot this. No, we should try to kill them off. Shoot the middle. Shoot the second. Shoot second.
Hit him 30.
Alright, let's look to walk. Let's look to walk forward.
Right there, my dude.
Let's walk up. Good shots.
Walking up.
We went inside. I'm gonna smoke it.
Yeah, I hear you. Can we look to the right, maybe?
Yeah. I think we played this spot.
Kevin, can we shoot this hit? 3, 2, 1.
Button, yep.
Dust.
Thirsting. I hit him at 180. I'm about it.
Beautiful shot coming in from Timmy from distance alongside his two teammates. They get the knock onto the team that was in that truck. That was E8 quite some time ago, but I'm pretty sure that's a combination of TSM. And no, it's actually, excuse me, it is still E8 who are in and around that truck. Elsewhere, SSG have been eliminated. So one of my teams to keep an eye on today, well, you don't have to keep an eye on them any longer in this game. Board also eliminated as we lose our first 3 teams.
It was great to get a listen in and just to hear Waltzy on the IGL as well. Of course, it used to be empty, but now Waltzy picking up those reins, and it sounds very comfortable to me. Now, elsewhere, SKD, they're on this far western side, and they have 2 teams around them. But are they going to be able to pick up any kills? They've already lost 2, and it's now Noct as the last remaining.
1v1. Not trying to clutch up for SKD here, but don't think he knows where the other player is. And now he's kind of a little bit split decision. Does he play behind the knockdowns to hit the battery? That is the answer in front of your face right now. It's Presley versus Noct in this 1v1. Is he going to play for the res here and exchange them? Elsewhere, OXG taking a fight here. It's a 2v2 by the looks of things for them.
Yeah, most hated are on the other side. Now it's just going to be Aiden on his own. And he is in the Bloodhound ult, but I'm not sure it's going to work out for him. Done a lot of damage, but it's not going to be a successful mission for him. He falls to most hated. We go back to this 1v1 that you were speaking of earlier. That's no longer a 1v1. Fluffy Aim is back up to a full 3.
It's a 3v2 now because they managed to get both reses. So SKD may have just made the wrong decision in this situation. And yes, indeed, that was the wrong choice. Take the 1v1 next time. You want that one back. But Fluffy Amiels will knock SKD out of this game number 1.
All the meanwhile, the circle is continuing to shift further east, which we did say could happen here. So just outside of this vault tunnel that both Falcons and YUP are holding at the moment is going to be one of the more desirable positions. So this could be a huge fight to win here for Team Falcons.
And they do have an armor advantage. You can already see as a blue armor. Also, Zero is going to jump over those with a little bit of gymnastics himself to make sure the Watson fences will not be a problem for the rest of Falcons. They will be safe where they are right now, but you can see the play. They want to take this spot away. They want to fight for it.
I think they're just hesitant in the moment, just in case there's any other teams in the area, waiting for those scans to get full information before they do anything. The zone is going to force them to make a decision soon, though. If they don't go fast, they might have to back off. All the meanwhile, most hated have just dived on in onto YUP, and suddenly there's going to be several teams in this area, and Falcons, if they bide their time, might be able to just sneak around.
NGNL gone, E8 gone as well. Another team just disappeared. Fluffy Aimers fell out of the lobby as well. This is a really tough rotate to have to make now. The team that's stuck inside of this building, very, very difficult to move through those traps if they want to get some clean shots without taking damage. Empire have gone down as well. Pioneers, they are cleaning up this side of zone for now, and there's a Kraber in the hands of Ommu as well. NRG will go down, and Now you're finding Cape as the last player alive. He's got no shields and he's got no life left as well. CCE will be eliminated, and Pioneers putting some good kills on the board. Look at the amount they've got already.
No one is in this next circle, by the way. The only team that's close to it is Not Moist, who have one of the more commanding positions from the north side. You could hear Waltzy knew where this circle was going. He was confident they were going to have a good game if they won that initial fight when we were in the listening. Now, the fight we were talking about earlier, Most Hated versus YUp, they're going to be fighting, and Falcons have to push it. Falcons need to come into this one.
Yeah, they're going, they're sending it. They see the knocks come in, and now Falcons, they have to send it themselves, but the fences are a problem, and Team Falcons will fall. So YUp, somehow or other, from being in a horrible, horrible position sandwiched between two teams, survive long enough to not only send Falcons out the lobby, but maybe fight their way through this last player alive to stay alive in this zone.
Only one player remaining for Most Hated as well, but has the zone on his side. Knockdown shields as well to play with, and you can see that they are scrambling inside there, and they may just fall victim to the red. They do, so now Most Hated will hold the southern side. Not Moist still on this northern side, holding out LG and Complexity. It's going to be 3 teams here. Not Moist, Pioneers, and Most Hated as our final 3.
LG gone, Complexity gone, and now you're seeing Not Moist, a new lineup, starting to take command of the northern side of this zone. They have the most space in this zone, but Pioneers and Onmu do have that Kraber, so keep your eyes on them. They have the opportunity here to play however they want if they can hit the shots, but the Caval's going to go down. It looks like Not Moist are forcing them away down the hill.
I love this push from Not Moist. It's an aggressive one that says we're prepared to take this fight, and they almost scare the opposition away, and they hope to scare them into another fight. It's the Pioneers who have lost the first player, though. Most Hated, Not Moist, and Pioneers all scrapping.
Deed's last player alive. Jet is going to go down as well, so Deed is trying to scrap for second place at the moment. Guild trying to clean him up, but the gold knockdown, we've seen it be a problem. Well, it's a problem once again. Timmy's taking his time and will be able to get back to full health, so Not Moist will have to play this one out as a 2, and Most Hated almost as a 2, but they've stuck the res by the looks of things, Not Moist. They might be able to get them back up, but no! It's going to be a straight 2v2 as one gets finished off.
Yeah, Most Hated still down to a 2, but the fact that Not Moist gave themselves the time, they don't know yet, but they might have gained that information that it is a straight 2v2 if they saw it on the death cam whilst he was knocked. And now suddenly the Kraber in the hands of Most Hated. Oh, and the Sentinel for Timmy.
Yeah, I see your Kraber. I got a Sentinel, and it's charged up, and I am feeling charged up alongside it. Timmy, the new boy, to this lineup for Not Moist, is taking the game in his hands, and Not Moist will win as Timmy hits a celebratory shot onto a teammate as well.
On his debut, what a way to kick off.
On his debut.
Joining Not Moist, the calls from Waltzy, perfect. A great time to go into a listening to see just how they wanted to play that game. And it was almost played exactly down to a T how he wanted to, and it all played out in his head how he foresaw it. Great first game from Not Moist.
I mean, when you're poking with a Kraber, you don't expect that kind of response a lot of the time. You feel like you have the power of the lobby in your hands, hit one shot, and you put your team into a position to win the game. But Timmy with a 132 headshot with that charged up Sentinel, it's why you pick a player like him up, right? He's a game changer. He's a game winner. And Timmy does it here for Not Moist.
He's just an absolute gamer, to be honest. And I think that even though it would have been a hard decision for Timmy to make the move across, just getting that victory under your belt, everything feels a little bit more justified. It takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders as well. So now Not Moist can probably relax a little bit as they go into this next game.
Yeah, phenomenal game from them. And I will say, Waltzy's yelling absolutely on point. Every single thing that in that listening he was saying was going to happen is exactly what happened. But I got to give a lot of credit again to Timmy playing with that Sentinel, creating so much space, not allowing teams to move up into the space that Not Moist were looking to play a little bit later on in that game. Fantastic performance all round from Not Moist. And with 11 kills alongside it, 23-point banger to start the day off here in North America. Not Moist making me feel things, Dan.
Tingly feelings everywhere from Not Moist. Well, Most Hated. I'm impressed with their performance as well, because not only did we see them win that initial fight in the choke, but then they soared all the way over to the eastern side, where they then kind of blocked out those teams that were holding in the vault tunnel. YUp and Falcons, who had been sizing each other up pretty much all game. Neither of them succeed in getting out of the tunnel because Most Hated were able to hold them out at the northern side.
Yeah, really, really impressive from them. And Team Falcons, you can see it was kind of all in on that play. The longer that fight took to take place, so to speak, the less likely it was that Falcons were going to be able to get into that fight healthy enough to really cause a problem. At the other end of the table, SSG, no points on the board in game number 1. A little bit of a disappointing one for them, although a tough zone to access, of course. SKD, we saw them in a momentary 1v1 that turned into a 3v2 very quickly as both teams tried to exchange reses, and it was the other side of things, the fluffy aimers who managed to get the 3 players up first. And looking at the damage stats here across the board, you can see that Not Moist putting up a huge amount with 4K on this side.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with the amount of space that they were able to take up right from the start of the game. And it was a lot done by Timmy as well. You can see 1,800 with the sniper being able to just annoy people from a distance, regardless of whether they were going to take that fight or they were just trying to poke and prod at everyone. It is a extremely impressive first place finish for Not Moist. But I think both Most Hated and Pioneers will be happy with second and third. Just want to touch upon SSG as well. The fact that we did see them take Sky East. This is one of the big differences, again, between North America and EMEA. A lot of teams are leaving Sky East in EMEA, saying that, you know, Sky West already pretty powerful. We don't really want to be competing with a team that's coming from there. And technically, you're then sharing a POI. So it's strange that in NA, people are still favoring it. People are still confident in Sky East, and SSG couldn't get it done in that first one.
Yeah, a little bit of a rough one for SSG, but Not Moist looking very, very strong at the end of game 1. It's time for us to go to a quick break. When we get back, though, match number 2 is coming your way.
Alienware is the official PC and monitor partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Apex Legends Global Series, as we have just completed our first match of the day here for NA, and now we're going to be looking towards match number 2. But before we do that, Dan, I think we gotta take a look back at some of those final moments from the first match, because what Timmy was doing to people with that Sentinel in hand was just unfair.
It was borderline bullying at one point, to be fair, what Timmy was doing throughout the entire game. Now, Not Moist, when they went down to a 2 here, it was looking pretty dicey, and they probably thought our chances of winning there's got to be teams of 3. But luckily for them, it was going to be a 2 that they go up against. Now, what Gil did, yes, he went down, but he allowed the res to happen and gave the information that there was only a 2. So it allowed then Moist to just take that second, reset a little bit, reposition, and get into a spot where they could take down. Also, the damage that Timmy did through smoke then, also a little bit ridiculous, has to be said.
Not only that, but Guild was also, I think he had 6 kills in that match. So, I mean, everybody was really pulling their weight in that first match. And, you know, we were kind of wondering what was going to happen. Obviously, that was a new roster change. We were excited to see what Timmy and Not Moist were going to do together as a trio. Like you guys said, I think that it was really cool too. Got to hear kind of how they work together on comms and the thought processes behind how they want to play their game out. And right now, after that first match, they looked great.
They did, and I mentioned it right at the end of the game. I just do think it takes the pressure off now, and we'll see whether they can continue this momentum going into match number 2. But there was a few teams who maybe had an opportunity to do a little bit more. I think both Falcons and Yup will be a bit aggrieved with what happened. The fact they were kind of gate-kept in a position that they've been working so hard to get. But sadly, that is the case. If a fight takes too long, if you don't get into the equation of said fight quick enough, you are going to be punished a little bit later. So maybe that will speed up some of these fights for some of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, and another one of those teams that ended up being in the top 3 with them that had a lot of kills as well was also Pioneers. They didn't end up getting that win. They got that 3rd place finish, but 11 kills to their name after a pretty aggressive match number 1. So they're setting themselves up well for the day as we continue into our next match. Obviously, Not Moist winning the first one, heading back to World's Edge now for match number 2. Have to see where this next zone will go, who it could potentially favor, and what that means for some of our squads. But so far, we're starting off with a pretty strong showing from some of these teams.
Is interesting as well, in the POI draft, 7 of the first 8 picks were all on World's Edge. So I think that says a lot for people about kind of where people believe they're going to be getting their points as a squad, and for the fact that it is match 1, 2, and 3. Now, in EMEA, we saw some teams prioritizing Storm points, saying we would rather catch up to squads knowing what we have to do rather than being the front runners. It's almost like a marathon race, right? Do you want to be at the front of the pack where you are leading the pace, or do you want to be just holding off a little further behind, save that energy, and then suddenly get that final sprint? Certainly those teams who have prioritized Storm Point are going to have to try and find something similar to that here in these games.
Yeah, that was something that we even had talked about during our EMEA matches as well. It's all about finding that balancing act, knowing that if your first, second, or even third choice POIs aren't going to be available to you on one map, how do you balance that out, make it work for you on the other? So far, it's been really fun kind of seeing how everyone is handling these POI draft picks. But of course, we also have our Challenger Circuit number 2 right around the corner, the 22nd to the 24th. And there's still time to register if you want to try and get yourself to compete in there, potentially see yourself up here on the main stage of ALGS. So if you are even remotely interested, get yourself signed up and check out that next Challenger Circuit. As I can hear the drop ships locked and loaded, our players are getting ready to dive into match number 2.
And it is going to be the Dome where we're currently going over. That's where Falcons selected as their POI. They had 27th pick, so they opted for going for the Dome rather than Mirage Etoile, Staging, Geyser, or Big Maud, which has been prioritized in other regions a little bit more. So clearly Falcons feel like something can be done from Dome, and we'll have to see whether they can pick up points. Match 1 wasn't certainly the match they expected, but they can certainly change their fortunes going into match 2 here.
We'll be kicking things off with Team Falcons as well. As they start to get themselves looted up, they'll be looking for that information and hopefully finding a bit of a more successful rotation into that first circle. Preparing themselves for who they potentially have to run into as well. And as we start to get that map information, seeing where some of our teams are going to end up, it looks like it's going to be shifting a little bit towards Monument.
Yeah, Monument is where we're going to be heading. And it could be the circle that does finish pretty much bang center of Monument as well. We saw it in APAC North actually quite recently, where it looked like it might shift a little bit to the west, but then suddenly it pulls back into Monument, so everyone got rewarded who had committed to Monument early. Again, the teams who are center at the moment, Monument, NGNL, have a ring console, so if they stay put, they're going to be pretty confident that it is going to be a Monument position as well. Weave moving from Overlook are going to have one of the priority movements if they go quick about their business, especially if they hit that survey beacon and realize that they have a perfectly quick transition from Fragment all the way to Monument right now.
Yeah, you can also see Elevate with a little bit of a 2-1 split right now, kind of scoping things out from Epi, which was left open when it comes to those drops. So Elevate could be looking to make a move in early and claim some space for themselves as well. Right now, you know, we're just watching everybody make their initial choices. You see Pioneers there also coming through the choke, potentially running into LG as everyone's working on that western side of where the circle's going to start moving. And then we also are back on board Team Falcons, who now have blue shields, looking a little bit more comfortably looted up as they start to move forward.
Interestingly, looking at this circle, it was APAC North day 1. Also, thank you, Dia, for putting all these together. You absolute legend. Riddle Order won this circle from Overlook, so that is fantastic news for Weave, who have dropped there. But second place in this game was third place was Fnatic all the way from Dome. So perhaps we'll watch quite keenly on how Falcons do on their rotation here and whether they go for something a little bit similar. It looks like Fnatic moved far east when they went for the rotation, whereas we are going to be seeing Falcons actually opting to go through launch site and then through Lava Siphon. So two very different approaches to this circle, and just shows the differences of the regions we have here in Apex.
You know, I also saw a little bit of back and forth there. Like I mentioned, we had Pioneers coming through that vault tunnel, and they did run into LG. A little bit of back and forth poke damage, but both teams opting to back off and make their way through the choke safely. Now checking in with Complexity and what they've got going on over here, finding themselves in a little bit of a back and forth as well. Everybody playing this really smart so far, though. Just getting enough damage to continue working on those Evos without really forcing anything too early.
Yeah, no one really wants to take said early fight, but it's also because everyone's more focused on getting the Evo Harvesters, as you mentioned. So eventually, if you do keep going along the path, you are going to just hit someone who's trying to get the same Evo Harvester as you. Complexity are going to force their way through this choke, and they might just miss Eternal, who forced their way through here a little bit earlier on. But Monument is already pretty full. Not much room to play. You've got TSM who are going to be playing the train tracks just to the west of Monument, and they're going to hold that position for a short while. Oxygen are going to be here in Landslide. They're going to be gate-kept by TSM. It does become a bit of a back and forth when you look at some of these teams of, yes, you might be able to get past one team in your rotation, but then there's just going to be another squad waiting for you after you've got past the initial.
Yeah, there's only so many different chokes that they can try to push through when they're coming from this western edge. There's going to be quite a few teams that are looking for some sort of space to move through on their later rotations as well. We're still waiting to see where Board goes, how SKD do, but Complexity have made their way through safely so far. They ended up going a little bit farther west so that they didn't end up running into Eternal, but still have so many of the other teams to be keeping their eyes on with that western wrap. TSM right on the edge of this tunnel, trying to see if they can maybe catch somebody out on a rotation as well, and just gonna kind of hold here in the opening for now.
And there's a lot of eyes on TSM, as there always is, because it's TSM, but after an incredible performance last week when we had no Falcons, we had no SSG, TSM were able to take the plaudits, but can they do it when the other big teams are involved here, and maybe answer some of those questions and doubts that other fans are putting upon TSM? It was great to have an interview with Verholst after last week as well, and just see that that confidence is still shining through, and the belief in his game and his teammates' game as well. But for now, TSM, they're going to be set, they're going to be put, they're going to be holding down those train tracks. Oxygen moved to Countdown just to get ring information, but it's NRG who are on the other side of it, and they might have just caught Oxygen with their pants down a little bit here.
Yeah, Energy, you guys mentioned it at the beginning, obviously landing in Sky West, and Oakshi running straight into their pathing right now. Oakshi backing off, not really wanting to take this fight this early on, and potentially wrapping right back into SKD. So this might be a little bit of a sandwich situation that Energy could try to capitalize on, as you can see them trying to do a little bit of poke damage across the way. And you can see that SKD was taking a little bit of it. They know that OXG is in the area. So now Landslide becoming a little bit of a hotspot.
This goes back to the marathon metaphor I was using earlier. By Oxygen going to get that ring console, they kind of drop to the back of the pack and they allow someone else to get in front of them here, and that is SKD. So now Oxygen need to try and find a way around them, right? So they're going to have to go down south, I think. Staging is going to be their approach, but then that means you have to force yourself through a choke point to get into the circle. So it's going to be a tough old move for Oxygen. Either they double back on themselves and take the fight against SKD, or they have to go all the way around to Harvester and then force themselves through that choke where Board are currently holding. Now, look at where that circle is sending us. It is going to be a little bit further west than I thought, still with heavy Monument presence, but there is a lot of mountain that's taken up by that circle, which of course means lack of playable space, which will then mean a lot of fights that are going to happen before we get to Zone 3.
There might be a really good opportunity for the last remaining teams that are here on the west side to hold that western choke. If they can clear out the likes of NRG, maybe OXG continues this wraparound and goes for the choke through Harvester. SKD do have an opportunity here to be one of the few teams that doesn't have to deal with the Monument chaos as everyone leaves those buildings, and it might end up working out for them.
You'd hope it does. I mean, I think everyone hopes that the zone is going to be in their favor. The downside for a lot of these Monument teams is they won't have any clue yet about where the circle is going to be going because there's no ring console for them to work with. When there's so many teams surrounding you, you don't have the opportunity to step out and actually gain said information. So this is where these kind of zones and these kind of shifts can benefit the late movers because you get that information before the other teams do, and then you can take that position. But my question would be, what position do you want to take? Board and TSM already take some of the more priority positions on the southern side, and you can't play close to the mountain. So it is just going to be about forcing yourselves into engagements and trying to pick up KP. This has to turn into gaining KP for a lot of these teams now.
There's lots of back and forth happening with SKD and NRG in the area. SKD able to scare off NRG from trying to make their push through on this Western Choke. NRG opting to wrap all the way back around through Skyhook, hopefully quickly enough that they'll be able to come out through one of the other areas and not be punished too harshly for it. But SKD actually did a really good job owning this space and now giving themselves a little bit of safety and time to work with the next ring collapse. So they've really opened up the doors for themselves.
So NRG, if they decide to go through the vault tunnel, they would be able to hold that position and technically get ahead of SKD, but still are going to have to fight them, but maybe fight them from a more favorable position. Now, we spoke about Falcons earlier and their move all the way from Dome. They do find themselves on the southeast side of this circle now, but they have to cross the lava to get to this next circle, and they're going to be focused by potentially Oxygen Esports, who are just waiting around this corner.
And we watched Oxygen on the map, that top-down go for the choke towards Harvester. Team Falcons now running straight into them, but don't have too many teams at their backs. They might be able to have a little bit of back and forth with OXG, but like you said, you've got Board in the area, TSM still in that tunnel. So there are some teams that are going to be looking to see if they can maybe do a little bit of damage from distance. Team Falcons trying to kind of peek around all the rocks and see if there's anyone they need to be worrying about at their backs, as no one's really made any sort of an aggressive move here just yet, kind of waiting for the next ring to give some more information.
Now, I don't know if it's a sign of strength or discipline of this region, but comparatively to EMEA today, the fact we still have 20 teams left in this lobby, very different to what we saw earlier on this morning with EMEA competing against one another and a few teams just kind of jumping into those engagements, trying to win those early fights, trying to force those early positions, but a lot more passive play at the moment from North America, but arguably smarter play in certain scenarios as well. Now, NRG did lose one of their players on their rotation on the northern side, so it might have seemed like a great idea, but they've been punished for it. Now, zone-wise, yep, still looking pretty bad for those teams who are on the far east, right? Because you have to go through building after building after building, but then just ultimate open space is where it's going to end. And I said that we're going to see a lot of teams die here in Zone 3. Then when we get to Zone 4, it's just going to continue whittling them down, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end up in like a 3v3 scenario in the final circle.
Yeah, TSM are looking pretty comfortable right now, not only having done a good job of keeping people out from that landslide side behind them, but now also having some really good vision on everyone in front of them, being right next to where that next ring's going to be, so they can kind of sneak out and go to their left and see if they can maybe get a little bit of a safer position. Same scenario with SKD, with the exception of having to worry about NRG, who are now down to that too. So those Western squads are looking comfortable. Meanwhile, Pioneers have been up at Grandma's house, and they're in a little bit of a back and forth here right now with Not Moist, who are looking to get aggressive, decided to back off, but the second all of that noise happens, there's potential for these other teams to collapse on them.
Or as you said it the other day, grandmother's house, which I think is far more quaint and much more appropriate as a British man for sure. But Pioneers and Not Moist, they certainly poised up against one another. But again, passive play. No one really wanted to take that fight. But we have 10 teams, maybe even 11, who are outside of this next zone. And everyone's got to move at the same time. So the kill feed is about to be completely lit up, like the 4th of July, fireworks in the sky at this point. Now, SSG, they are one of the teams who have to move. Let's have a listen and see how they do it.
Yep, slide up. You're good, you're good. Just keep sliding left. Slide me. 1 second to smoke. Save your bloodhound. Yep. You're gonna have to ult soon. Yep. Ult soon. Ult. Right now? Walk up with me. Yes. Ult and scan this.
Chain. Oh, you want?
Team blue. We need to scan mid.
You need to walk up. Right side. Yep. Nobody on our side. We're good.
Yep, coming.
Take under. We can take under. You need to take under. Peanut.
Taking it.
You need to take it. Two cracks. I take it. There's a team above you. Chill.
Killing it, your friend. Playing us. Make sure.
Bottom back hit. Hard watch it for me. Scan it 7. Pound
Just show me and look at this, okay? We all do this.
Pound it.
Look at zone.
They scan. Yeah, they might peek. Standing now.
Doing them. Yep.
We're good.
A lot of people.
It's not worth peeking it.
You want to try to wrap, right?
No.
You want to save scan for right?
Yeah, save scan. Scan at 15. Just hard watch that fucking staircase. Yep, I'm. Listen, can you scan from like all the way this corner? I want to see if it's a duo. It might be a duo. Okay. Yeah, scan all the way south. Scan at 5. One guy hit.
One got cracked.
Yep.
I mean, they somehow snuck right in there and were able to claim that first floor of this building pretty much uncontested here, and now they know that there is a team directly above them, and obviously everyone else around them they'll have to worry about, but for now have bought themselves a little bit of time. Meanwhile, off in the wings, we've got Team Falcons down to a duo going up against TSM.
Yeah, TSM were shooting them from a distance, but most hated, again, it's Falcons and most hated who are kind of annoying each other, or at least most hated are annoying Falcons. They're like a thorn in their side, just as they were in the previous game. Falcons as a 2 are going to really struggle to hold off most hated here, because TSM are going to be kind of joining in this fight from those train tracks, but we have seen crazier things happen and more incredible things done by these two players. Maybe not on the same team before, but now they have a chance as a 2 to try and fight their way out of what is a very dicey situation.
I mean, we're losing lots of teams right now. We lost to NRG trying to push their way into Pioneers, and now the push comes in from Most Hated. SSG down in the kill feed as well as they continue to do some damage onto Team Falcons, and they do go out. Most Hated clearing out this space, and now TSM know that they can try to look this way and maybe try to do a little bit of a third party, but either way, Team Falcons could do nothing where they were pinched.
Well, I said the kill feed was going to light up beforehand, but a lot of teams did find their way into playable space. We lost about 4 or 5 teams, but now it is going to get whittled down even more because all these teams on the northeast side have to move at the same time. They were within buildings at the moment, but there's a lot of solos here as Gil tries to do what he can as a solo, but imagine he will fall, which he does. Not Moist and NGNL both go down at exactly the same time as more teams now are just trying to desperately find anywhere to play here on World's Edge.
You've got Yup eliminated, Elevate eliminated. Most Hated does end up going down as that space continues to get cleared out. TSM has pushed their way out of that tunnel, and they're doing whatever they can to hold that space. They're now looking at Fluffy Aimers. Meanwhile, everybody's still in the city trying to hold what little bit of safety they can. You get a nice top-down view here of TSM and what they're trying to do. On the other side of this rock is exactly where Fluffy Aimers are, and they are the next squad that TSM has in their crosshairs.
Well, the only building that's going to be within the next bit of the zone is where Complexity and LG are currently scrapping, but TSM doing really well at taking a lot of space, spreading out as a 3 and really commanding this southern area. But it's the Fluffy Aimers who are down below them. They have taken a lot of damage, but TSM can't commit because they're being shot by other squads as well. Verholz goes down, but they may get an opportunity to reset here because the Fluffy Aimers have to climb if they want to make this push, and that is going to be a very reluctant climb.
Yeah, Fluffy Aimers do have a shield advantage, but like you said, it's a little bit of a little dicey situation with EEC looking their way, knowing that there's an engagement going over there. They've been kind of dealing that poke damage and being annoying and that back and forth between TSM and Fluffy Aimers as Fluffy Aimers try to make a wraparound and make that push onto TSM. TSM's able to get the reset. Rez does come through, and they're able to survive a little bit longer here in this match. Meanwhile, like you had mentioned, you've got LG and Complexity in a building scrapping. CCE is going to be forced out of their position soon as everything starts to collapse. And SKD, who had taken that Western choke, like I mentioned, is still holding it. They've managed to push their way through and clear out the space around them, and now on the northern side.
Yeah, this is where the Dark Veils come down to give you protection. TSM have to make the push, but they've lost one already. But you can see Rex and Verhorst are still up and will get the remaining damage to win the fight. 7 squads now remain, but there is a lot of solos, a lot of doubles. Doublés are around, and TSM are one of them right now. They have to try and find their way in from the south, but other teams are going to have eyes on. You can see one member of KCP is still alive. Gent just desperately trying to avoid any sort of sightlines right now.
I didn't know you were bilingual.
I try my best.
It was beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful as EEC does go down in the kill feed. TSM just down to 1. trying to do whatever he can. Reps, at least just gonna bunker down for a little bit, because I don't think anyone's necessarily looking the way of TSM as the solo for Pioneers goes down, giving some more placement points to TSM. There's no way he hits Moby, right? There's no way.
Surely not. As soon as SKD see this, they have to full send. They're a little bit worried, probably, SKD, about where the other teams are, but little do they know at the moment it's just a little game of hide and seek in this building between LG and Complexity. I thought it might end in a straight 3v3 in this final circle, but because that building having that corner just allows these two teams to stay alive next to one another, as now it is happening. Reps is making the play. SKD do see it, but SKD might just let it happen.
I mean, they have the Kraber in hand and some sight lines on Complexity and LG, which might be better for them to maybe try and take out, as they're going to be forced out of the building here very soon. TSM now back up to a full 3. Obviously won't be the same level of loot as everybody else, but at least have increased their numbers, as Dropped is trying to be as annoying as possible with the remaining Kraber bullets he's got.
Well, TSM can very much play a part in this final circle now. You're completely right. Might not have the same kind of attachments, but all the meanwhile, this is still happening. LG and Complexity scrapping, going toe-to-toe, but who comes out on top? It looks like it's Complexity, will be Complexity, and now they will hold this northeast side and can start to think about how they want to win this game. They're going to be below the train tracks. They'll have a little bit of cover, but the downside is there's a Kraber on the other side, and Complexity have to try and avoid that.
I think TSM might be looking their way as well, trying to decide which is the best fight to take, even though they know that Drop does have that Kraber in hand. The Bangalore ult comes out to start zoning, as well as the Catwall coming down to give a little bit of space for Complexity to make their move up, and they do make a successful wrap towards that top end. So now it's going to be in the hands of SKD.
Yeah, SKD have the height. The smokes have gone down. TSM really have their backs quite literally against a wall right now, but now we'll start to make their move. Can Complexity give them a distraction will be the real question. As Complexity now look across, and TSM have already lost one. It looks like this should be wrapped up by SKD, but SKD have everything you could possibly want.
They try to make their push up. TSM is finally eliminated, and all SKD have to do is drop down on the already injured Complexity to close out match number 2. And after doing a really, really good job of being patient on that western side, of dealing with the back and forth with NRG to the point where they push NRG away back through Skyhook, and that resulted in NRG being dropped down to a duo. SKD did exactly what they wanted to do with the western side of that zone, how they wanted to play it, and in the end, it paid off in spades.
TSM helped get rid of Falcons, and then Ravens, SKD get rid of TSM. It's just poetry at this point in ALGS as the stories line up. But SKD, as soon as they were able to hold off NRG right at the start of that game, and they held that western side, they gave themselves such a good opportunity to win the game as the circle shifted their way, and they'll be delighted with that victory.
Yeah, I mean, lots of things that SKD did right in that situation. So a nice little match number 2 for them. But that was a tough zone, I think, for a lot of those teams. We watched Pioneers try to make their way through and do what they could with the situation. We watched Fluffy Aimers kind of get stuck between EEC and TSM around that rock. Even though they had some really good loot and good shields, there was just a height disparity that they couldn't really navigate around, and they were pinched between too many people. I mean, that was just such an open zone for a lot of these teams that had bunkered down in buildings. Like you had said, they were really calling it to be more monument focused as far as that final circle went, and when everybody had to push out, it ended up kind of being really chaotic. But the one team that handled that well was Complexity. They won their fight against LG, and even if they didn't win the match, that additional KP will be big for them.
Yeah, and it's something that Complexity have done very well, and also something that has been very prominent in Pro League this season is even if a team doesn't find success and a victory, they are getting good kills on the board, and they are finding consistency to make sure they're at top of the leaderboards. And that's what we saw from Complexity last week, and it seems like that momentum has carried through here today, and they surely are going to be looking at today as a possible chance to get even more points with performances like that. They only miss out on essentially winning this game by a point, but it is SKD who had the position in that final circle and find themselves picking up first place.
That is a really, really strong first and second place showing from both of those squads. I mean, nice placement points out of TSM. They just had such a strong position that they were able to hold for so long. It didn't necessarily lend itself to being aggressive and getting that KP, but at least overall getting some points on the board. We also got 5 to Fluffy Aimers down there as they were able to find people along their rotation and kind of pick them off as they went. And then 4 points to NGNL as well.
The fact that we had so many teams alive for so long, I think it was 13 minutes until we saw a team actually go down here in match number 2, meant that there was a lot of kills to be shared around because people kind of taking individual fights, people kind of finding solos that were scrapping around, and that's why we saw these points spread out so evenly, really, from 5th downward. There was only really the top 2 that picked up big points from this match.
Look at the damage, though, coming out of all of these teams. Like we said, I mean, it didn't convert into a lot of KP for TSM, but still right up there with 3,300, almost matching SKD's damage. And then the 3,800 out of Complexity, 1,600 apiece for Monsoon and Lou. I mean, you just got a chance to talk about Lou before we even got into this match, and he's living up to those numbers that we saw reflected in those stats. A really stellar match number 2 for all 3 of those squads. But we still have many more matches up left on the docket, so it's time for a short break, and when we return, match number 3 coming at you.
Herman Miller is the official chair partner of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the ALGS, and welcome back to World's Edge. We've got one more game to go on this beautiful map that we all know and, of course, love. 2 done. Not Moist with the win in game number 1, and SKD with the win in game number 2 down. This is how things are looking overall, though. Complexity top of the pile with some good points on the board.
I haven't made a single joke about SKD all day today, so that has to change here in match number 3, I feel, especially after a victory, but we'll get to that later. Complexity, 29 points, as you mentioned, but it is getting a bit tight at the top between the top 5. We're starting to see some teams break away just after 2 matches, but what was important in match number 2 is the amount of kills that were spread out from about 5th downward, because it was such a tight lobby and people were picking up kills here, there, and everywhere. It meant that everyone kind of stays within a chance of getting towards the top.
It was interesting to see that TSM as well almost managed to pull off the impossible. Verhulst gets that res on both Zap and Reps towards, Reps gets the res onto both Verhulst and Zap in those final moments to give them an opportunity to be a part of that final circle as well. You thought for a second, maybe it's going to happen, and then you realize SKD have the entire zone with the Kraber as well. So pretty free game for them. Worked very hard to get to that position, of course, but now it sets us up beautifully for match number 3. And my question to you, young Gaskin, is where are our super teams at?
Yes, considering the fact that, you know, SSG and Falcons were so far ahead in those overall standings, and we talk about, well, everyone needs to try and catch up. Well, this is their opportunity to catch up, because Falcons and SSG, neither of them have been able to get going so far, and I think this is what's going to happen with the POI draft. You are going to have rough weeks where sometimes the POI just doesn't go your way, but it's about finding a good amount of points from said POI. So you don't have to win the week. You don't even have to come top 5 in a week. Sometimes just getting top 10, if you have a rough position in that POI draft, could be everything when it comes down to the very end of Split 2.
And it's those things that we haven't had to think about in previous splits, right? That all of a sudden kind of raise themselves as situations that you have to accommodate for now that we have this POI draft. But as we head into match number 3, it's Complexity who are at the top of the leaderboards and put themselves in such a good spot in that last game. And also, Monsoon's changed things up. He's no longer on the Sentinel. He picked up a charge rifle in that game and was doing some pretty crazy things. And if you missed it last week, by the way, I think it was game number 2 on World's Edge where he played as a solo inside a zone with a Kraber.
Yeah.
Go back and watch it. It is absolutely nuts what he was doing in that game, and maybe do that after the games are finished today. If you're in Europe, maybe do it tomorrow because it's getting a little bit late. But SKD, the winners of game number 2. Oh, we're going to start off with them on their loop.
It'd be worth it for the Insomniacs, though. I am just saying. It was something a little bit special. Now, SKD, coached by Raven, I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm very excited to see how they progress, as you've got 3 incredible individuals on this roster, and now with Raven at the helm as the coach as well, then there is always going to be the opportunity for improvement across the board. Circle-wise, we're heading down to the southeast. Could be somewhere towards... I think it's probably going to be Big Mord at this point. I don't think we're going to pull as far down as Stacks. We saw this circle in EMEA just earlier on today where it pulled all the way to the southern side, but the circle isn't really covering that much. So where Empire are, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in more of a Big Mord finish here.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's going to be pulling away from Stacks a little bit, and this is an interesting decision to make, right? If you get Ring Console, you get that information, like, where do you play? Because the easy answer is Stacks, because there's going to be a playable space. Maybe you play Geyser and try and approach the choke a little bit later. I maybe would try and play that choke, but it's so difficult to play because you're kind of exposed from getting shot from teams rotating from Geyser, and of course the ones that are holding you out from Mord's side. So Big Mord is going to be a very good spot to play. It might pull out towards the paintball playground a little bit as well. It's a tough one. Bridge is going to be a good spot for quite some time, but also a little bit exposed. So I'm interested to see how teams navigate this. I think Prio is going to be Big Mord, but Empire are going to try and defend that with their with everything they have because it's such a strong position.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at previous circles throughout this season, and there's not really anything that's been like this apart from the one we had in EMEA today, which was more Stacks focused. But I do think, just judging from scrims and, you know, enough ranked play, we're probably heading towards the outskirts of Big Mord. But you're completely right. Where you play is what is difficult. Now, this is an interesting one from Falcons. Taking the rocks on the far west eastern side allows them to push in behind other teams and get into Big Mord, but perhaps from an area where people wouldn't have been expecting.
So they want to maybe try and play a combination of the rocks and that little cart that you can... Zero was kind of tiptoeing around for a few seconds there. Empire trying to force them off as well. You can see already 2 teams inside of Mord. That tells you everything you need to know about where we believe this zone will be going. And Falcons with this spot, with this cover, do command quite a lot of space on the southern side of this zone. So interesting to see if there's an opportunity for them to put some more points on the board after a little bit of a slow start in the first 2 games. Elsewhere, the teams who have obviously had a pretty good start to things, like Complexity, they're still on their way down at the moment. SKD as well, still making their way. They're not even left thermal station as yet. Board's still over at launch site as well, so they've decided that maybe they're not going to have great prio. And speaking of making their way towards Stacks, well, Complexity, number 1 at the moment. That's going to be Kimchi. He has to do some work to get his team back into this game. He's got both banners, but it's not been the perfect rotate for them. 2 already down.
Yeah, sadly, after a very impressive game previously, they are going to have to try and rescue something here, which... there is a chance maybe they can get back up at Dome if Kimchi can get away here, because Dome isn't occupied anymore. We've already seen that Falcons move very quickly from Dome to get to that eastern side of Big Mord. So as long as Board don't beat Complexity to the race here, they should be able to get back up to a 3. Sadly, though, once Board see that dropship coming in, it's going to most likely end up being a push and a fight they have to take very quickly.
Well, LG are playing the truck. They've got the Watson as well in the composition. Good to see Watson back as well. I think a lot of people are starting to see the value of Watson as well, with a lot of the Bangalore ults that are going down, a lot of the fuses with loads of grenades and knuckle clusters. It really does give you an opportunity to kind of negate some of the stronger things that a lot of the legends that are being picked in compositions do provide at the moment, and Kimchi does manage to get that res, but you can already see the problem, right? It's just not looking good for Complexity. They're getting chased down, and this was a race you were talking about. Board were trying to find them, and it looks like they have found them already.
Yeah, Monsoon out of the frying pan and into the fire, sadly. Board were waiting, more than happy. Well, that was a free gift from the heavens for them, and that's some extra KP. And now I do think Kimchi probably does get away, so Complexity can still go on their journey, and he can try to wrap for that once more. But yeah, it's a sad news for Complexity. I think when they started to leave that dropship, they got the realization it was not going to go well for them.
Yeah, I think unfortunately he's not going to get the opportunity.
Oh, it's a last stand.
Yeah, it's a last stand, and even though there's a frag grenade on the floor, he's not going to get the opportunity to even see those damage numbers pick up, because Complexity will be eliminated. Kimchi tried the rescue mission, but unfortunately, Complexity will still drown. It's going to be 19 squads then. Our first squad eliminated as Complexity will fall. Little scan comes in from Board. They will be fine. TSM are their closest competitors at the moment. They're all the way over in launch site.
Well, a little bit quicker to get our first team eliminated in match 3 rather than match 2. Not the 13-minute wait we had before, as everyone was kind of tentatively approaching one another and reluctant to take said fights. But this time, that was just too easy for Board as soon as they saw that dropship. Now, TSM might be their second fight they have to take, because TSM now are moving through Launchpad and might eventually do the same rotation, go towards Dome, and then try approach from the south. With a lot of these teams who are arriving late, there isn't any playable space. I know often we say, oh, there's not much playable space. There is no playable space kind of left around Big Board, so you are going to have to take that space off of someone else.
Well, Not Moist at the moment might have a little isolated fight on their hand, and Timmy, well, he's got the Sentinel. This time it's not charged up, but we've already seen what he can do with this gun. A little blind fire through the smoke, hoping to see some numbers pop up on his screen. Not going to happen this time. Has to avoid that Bangalore ult and just back up for a second. Also, he's taking quite a lot of damage, though, and that might encourage the team on the other side of this to have a little bit of a push, and it's SSG who are trying to make that push.
Well, SSG haven't been able to get going so far. Winning this team fight could be everything for them. They would then own the northern side and could maybe move through the geyser area and have an opportunity to force their way into zone. But it's Timmy with a Sentinel yet again, and we saw what happened last time. And Timmy's got the chance to do it again.
And most importantly here for Not Moist, as a beautiful spray comes in from the Havoc from Waltzy. That angle that was being held by Timmy allowed Waltzy to get his heals away and get back up to full health to re-engage with this fight. And by re-engaging, he's doing so much damage for his team. Guild is going to swing on this one with the Volt. He gets the first knock onto Koi, and this is SSG not looking good. One player gets away for a few seconds, but SSG decimated, and it's 3 games in a row where SSG have barely got a point on the board.
Which, you know, is going to be annoying for them, but at the same time, their pick was in 18th position here today. So they knew all of the World's Edge POIs had already gone. So they were bound to have a difficult day when it comes to their POI positioning. But still, you'd expect more from them. They would expect more as well. But they'll have to now move over to Storm Point to try and find points to catch up with the rest of the lobby. Circle-wise, you may have seen it. We are heading down further towards Big Mord and Stacks. It is shifting a little bit further towards Stacks, so there is still a chance it could pull south, but it does look like somewhere in between is where we are going to head and end up. But most of those positions are taken, so you're going to get a few teams now that are going to take some of the fights in chokeholds, who are going to take some of the fights in the outskirts here just to try and find some KP.
Really are having a little bit of a throwback today in the ALGS, aren't we? We've seen Watson coming back in. We're seeing scouts in the hands of players. It's... What year is this? A very strange feeling for me to be... I'm like, what's going on right now? But it is going to be... You can see KCP and NRG having a little engagement, and this is an opportunity to go and third party this for NGNL. So an opportunity if some knocks come in for them to find some KP, but NRG not going to be able to connect with those shots. And Nocturnal now looking to put that right. A little bit of a spray coming in. Gets the shield crack this time, but there is NGNL, and he has to back up. And luckily, he's got some double time to play with the Bangalore.
That's always frustrating when you're on the edge and you're chasing a team and you think it's going to be an isolated fight that you can potentially take and get some good armor, get some good loot, and maybe own that side. Suddenly, there's a third party, and suddenly there's another team. And you're like, for goodness sake, can we get a break here? Because now NRG are going to have their backs against the zone, and they're going to have to try and force their way in when they're going to have 2 squads looking at them, because obviously they've given their position away by taking those shots. This is not going to be fun for them whatsoever.
Well, House popping the double ult Excel to try and get that Bloodhound ultimate back as quickly as possible. Which usually gives you an indication that they want to take a fight, but Not Moist are not going to take any more fights in this lobby as they will be eliminated. Elevate will be the team who hold them out and manage to get those kills. So Not Moist winning game number 1, a good team fight win in game number 3 early on, but no more points to speak of in this game. Falcons being pressured a little bit here. And How taking a lot of damage. That is 2 HP. I won't say 1 HP because that would be a lie to you all viewers at home, and I'm not in the business of doing that to you. So 2 HP. Medkit now, 100.
The CEO playing it perfectly, right? He knew exactly how much health he is going to have.
Calculated.
All part of the plan. That was dicey.
Man once said.
Had he gone down there, that could have been very detrimental to Falcons, but luckily just about escapes, and now Falcons can hold this southeast side, and the circle is going to continue pulling down the stacks. I was worried that those teams who were committing to stacks might have to force their way out, but it's going away from Big Mord now, so this is great news for those who had to take stacks because of the lack of playable space that had already been taken by the other teams. The 8 squads that are currently in Big Mord, bad news for them.
Choice words, I imagine, will be said. Elsewhere, this is TSM versus Falcons. And it looks like Falcons are getting the upper hand. TSM will be eliminated, so Falcons make the push onto TSM in this truck and clear them out. CC also eliminated in the meantime. It always feels good against your ex-teammates to win that team fight.
It means now Falcons will hold the eastern side. They do have a building to work with, but depending on where this zone shifts, it's going to be a tough one for them if it does head a little bit further west, because there's about 5 teams that are ahead of them now. But I think the bigger question is, all these teams on the north over towards Big Mord and arriving from Geyser, where on earth do you go here? Because you could maybe try and play the eggshells just above stacks, but there's a couple of solos who are ratting around that will play a part in that. You're also going to have a lot of eyes from the taller buildings in stacks that are going to kind of grief you from a distance as well. So it is going to be certainly an unenjoyable experience. You've also got teams that will be arriving from the west. You've got SKD on the train tracks. You've got NGNL, who we saw a little bit earlier. They're going to be arriving late as well. A lot of teams and a lot of guns to try and get some damage here and pick up some kills.
Yeah, Falcons, you can see here, taking a little bit of damage themselves. Howl down to 40 HP. I'm making sure I'm being extremely accurate today, or as accurate as I can. And Falcons just trying to hold a little bit of space here for them to make sure that they're not all trapped in that truck. The only problem is every time that he pokes, Eternal are doing so much damage and forcing him to burn even more heals.
Yeah, Eternal being very annoying to Falcons at the moment, and I think sums up the first 3 games for Falcons, really. There's just been a team that's been a thorn in their side and not allowed Falcons to play the game the way they want to. But that's also one of the reasons why I love the POI draft, because you get different teams in different places who can be that annoyance and can really change how things are going to be in a lobby like this. Now, I mentioned SKD, who are on the western side of these train tracks. They will be able to hold this position, but do they know NGNL? Yes, they do now, are very close to them, just north.
Catwall goes down as well. It looks like SKD are thinking about just poking this. They did get that scan information. However, scan information is one thing. Keeping yourself alive is another altogether, and Shubi just about managed to get out. Now the catwall is going to go down as they try and make their rotate ahead. LG taking a little bit of engagement as well over at Big Mord, and Elevate, speaking of ex-LG members, Slayer looking to push off the back of this scan that he's managed to get in. They want these KP.
Yeah, they want to try and find these NGNL members, and they will do so. All the meanwhile, SKD, they got out of dodge. They avoided it. They recognized there was a big threat on that northwest area, and now SKD will play the eggshells. Now, the eggshells are important because it was one of the positions I was talking about earlier. If you are in Big Mord, eggshells might be the first place you can really find any sort of cover.
Jeez.
So where do you go, right? If you try and force yourself south, you're going to go into LG. If you try and go to the western side, you go into SKD and Elevate. So sometimes if you can't go through it, you can't go under it, you have to go over it. Maybe an evac tower to potentially land on a building in stacks, but then you're going in blind, and then you are really trusting your gut feeling at that point. It's going to be rough.
I mean, this is going to be rough for everybody involved. Look at this Endgame. I mean, 3 buildings safe for quite some time, but you get the idea it's going to pull out from those buildings and finish in the open. So a really, really tough zone to try and win here. This is where you wish you had a Gibraltar, which is one legend that we aren't seeing in competitions right now. LG are getting aped at the moment, though, and Dynasty will clean them up. That's going to be most hated who take out LG. And Dynasty will be able to get the reset by the look of it. They take the bottom floor of the building that's going to be safe right in the little corner for a little bit of time. SKD now under pressure.
I think it's going to be very similar for a lot of these teams in stacks because all these teams are on the northern side are going to be full sending to try and get into one of these buildings. SKD have to take the fight against Elevate though because they're arriving from this northwest. And at the moment, they've got back up to a full 3. They've got back up to full armors and they will take this fight.
Oh, it's such a good swing as well. Look at the damage that's coming in as well. Everybody times it properly. And even though knocks will go down, the knockdown shields won't be enough to keep Elevate Gaming alive. And it will be SKD who pick up some more points with those kills. Elsewhere, Falcons, now they're in a fight. They're going to win it as well against Eternal. So the fight that's been threatening to take place for quite some time finally does. And now they will control this side of the zone.
Falcons rip out that Thorn and toss it to one side. It was more like a splinter for the Falcons at that point. It's really annoying, but when you eventually get it out, boy, does it feel good. Now, though, they have to consider how on earth they get into stacks here because there's Yup who will be watching them. Empire Gaming and Most Hated also will have eyes from the building they find themselves in. So it's going to be a really intriguing rotation for Falcons. The same could be said for SKD from their northwestern side. They're going to have a difficult journey too.
Well, Yup have managed to get their way into zone. There is a building that's free at the moment, but only a corner of it will be safe. You can see a lot of players understandably stacked up on the construction building right now. A lot of teams as well, as you'll see the respawn come in now for drop. So SKD will be back up to a full 3, which is a much better opportunity to fight your way in. However, two teams are looking at them, both Yup and Weave. So when they leave Dome, and even when Dropped leaves the dropship, the question is, will he be able to land with even some shields? He manages to navigate that pretty well. Also, he finds himself a little loot box to play with.
Deathbox is going to be great. Well, production said let's go to a skid mark listening, so that allows me to say that name. Let's see how they do.
Outside right. We get
outside right.
Pretty much.
I get a scan on their door.
Get a scan on apartment, please, whenever you're ready.
Scanning. No scan for 20.
No one's on bottom. No one is on bottom.
Okay.
You guys
Smoke
ready?
the second floor, maybe.
Yep, smoking second. We gotta just fucking send it. Slide.
Safe.
Play to me,
I got nuke. I'm batting here.
Watch underneath. Watch the fucking, watch that ship.
Tunnel team could peek.
Wait, this is good on me. This is good on me. Come here.
There is a tunnel team. Yes. Play the right side on us.
I have one 15%.
Give me shields. Give me a bat.
I only have one bat. I only
have one.
Yeah, I'm good on shields here. Take those.
I have no meds as well. Got syringe shots.
Wait, no one is in this fucking building, I don't think, bro.
Okay,
yeah.
I'll wait for next. I'll wait for next.
I have one 3%. Stay healthy.
Yeah, they can peek you out the window. Don't peek out.
I have wall. We need to get a scan. What's your scan at?
8.
Okay.
You want me to scan this?
Yes, scan that building, yes. I think we smoke to the staircase and you wall us.
We should wait till zone, you think? It could
no, scan the fucking building. There is no one there. Ready? We ready?
Yeah.
You ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on, come to me.
Catwalk.
I walled.
Sometimes you just need to be told what to do, and Dropped is showing what you have to do sometimes as an IGL. They recognize no one is in this building whatsoever, but crossing to it is a different thing altogether, and Dropped for the second time in just a few moments will go down.
And you mentioned it earlier, such a difficult circle to play. I don't think we've seen it for quite a while. I think it probably was the Gibraltar meta when we last saw a circle like this, when Snipedown came out of the dropship with his heirloom and beat someone down for the final kill. But SKD will get back up to at least a 2, and they will survive for now. But this is going to be mental. It's called stacks for a reason, right? It allows for a lot of teams to play on top of one another. And we have, what, 9 squads still remain at this point, at this stage of the game? Going into the 11 squads going into this final circle, excuse me. Mark, I hope you as a play-by-play are ready, because this kill feed is going to be nuts.
Let me take a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. Falcons got to be careful here. A few shots coming in from above. A lot of teams obviously aware of their positions. You got to remember, most teams in this lobby, pretty much all the teams in this lobby, will be running the Bloodhound to give them the information, but this is a really tough spot to rotate from. They're hoping some fights will break out above them, but everybody is kind of looking down instead of at each other. No lines of sight that are available for the teams who are on top of each other, on each other. It's just a case of surviving for now. Falcons have to wrap their way around the front of this building, but you've got Most Hated who are waiting for them as well on the other side. Yup and Weave still there as well. As Falcons find a little corner to play, and look at this corner, Dan.
I like this corner.
Now you're going to see some shots come in. Pioneers will be eliminated in the meantime, and Falcons have to retreat back to the edge of this zone.
If you can play on the low ground here, you do have a chance of winning this game. Both Most Hated and Falcons are in a good spot, but now they might have to fight against each other, as it is mayhem. It's pandemonium at this point. Everyone's starting to get involved in this fight.
Well, Jim Bird's the last alive here. He's going to have to try and clutch for his team. It's good damage. It's hip fire damage. But the team dropping down from the high ground. He's just trying to secure KP for his team. Empire gone. Falcons gone as well. We're down to 7.
Blind pick. I'm going for most hated. It's difficult to predict, but they are in a good spot right now as we're down to 6 squads, as you mentioned. There are 4 teams on the southern side, all in this building, though. Fluffy Aimers have the height. Board go down. 5 teams now left.
We've also gone as well. Fluffy Aimers, like you say, they do have the hype, but they will have to drop. And when they drop, they will be stunned. Oxygen Esports eliminated in the meantime. SKD go down, managing to get into that top 4, as now we are left with 3. NRG are going to be one of those teams. Most hated and the Fluffy Aimers up on top. Surely this is Fluffy Aimers just going to wait for the damage to be done.
The Fluffy Aimers, how fluffy will their aim be is the real question as they arrive to the party just the right time. 1, 2, 3, as easy as ABC. Fluffy Aimers get the job done, and they find the victory as they arrive last to the party.
Just waited for the zone to close, waiting for the 2 teams to move into each other. By the way, that end zone is, I would say, unrelenting when it comes to being able to play it. A very, very tough end zone to really be engaging with. Very difficult for all the teams in the surrounding areas to get access to. So that's one maybe that the teams will think, hey, we don't want to see that one again. But for us, very entertaining as viewers to see. And it's going to be the Fluffy Aimers who have the best aims when it comes to the end of that game.
I wonder if that's a record in most recent times of teams alive in the final circle. 11 squads. North America is certainly showing that this region is so difficult to tear apart at the moment to try and find anyone to really be ahead of the game, certainly in this lobby, because everyone's so closely contested and no one taking these early fights. Everyone respecting one another right now. And I think that is the story of A and B. So many good teams that you don't really want to push a fight because you don't know who could be around that corner.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting game, and it was a real test of the IGLs in that one as well, because I'm not sure that anyone was really 100% confident in where it was going. We thought it was going Maud. A lot of teams obviously thought it was going Maud from their early positioning as well, and then the pull back to Stacks, and then the pull into the pit just outside of the construction building is something I haven't seen for quite some time, I have to say, and that's including scrims, that's including a lot of games played. So a little bit of surprise for many, many people, but it's Fluffy Aimers on top of that construction building who do get the win in the end. But I think that's one of the craziest end games I've seen for where we actually finished that game.
Yeah, and it could have gone a different way. One of the teams on the low ground could have potentially won it had there been a moment of respite, but sadly there was no real opportunity to reset for any of these teams because of the amount of squads in the final circle. If it was like a similar final circle but only 3 teams, for example, maybe the team on the high ground suddenly doesn't get the opportunity to drop for free because more people can look up towards it. But because everyone's focus down low was on one another to try and find kills, it just allowed such an easy game at the end for the Fluffy Aimers.
Yeah, very, very simple for them to just clean up the final pieces, essentially. Sometimes when we see the team on height, we're waiting for what happens below. You're expecting one team to be able to survive, like you say, and wait for them to drop and be able to get that initial damage. But so much damage was done. It was such an easy job for them to clean up. And with the 10 kills alongside the 12 placement points, it will be 22 points going to the Fluffy Aimers. NRG securing second as well with 8 KP alongside it. So 17 points overall. Most hated again up there with 9 kills and 7 placement points. It means 16 more points for them. They're having a great day.
Team Falcons did pick up 8 kills, which gets them 10 points on the board. Nothing to be sniffed at, especially with the difficult journey they had to make from the east after they were getting kind of annoyed and griefed by a team that was just a little bit ahead of them. As we go to the bottom half of the leaderboard, though, there's a few teams that really did struggle. We did see a couple of early exits this time. Both Complexity and SSG fell. It wasn't the same as match 2 where we had to wait a long time for fights to happen or teams to be eliminated. Not Moist, they did win that team fight against SSG. They got 3 points on the board, but sadly, because they arrived so late, there was already a team to hold them out and get them at the choke point.
I mean, that was a very different Stacks ending than what we saw out of EMEA, and wildly exciting. And gotta give a shout out here to Fluffy Aimers as well, because last time these two groups saw each other, I think they were in 17th when it was all said and done. So they've really turned their performance around here today, kind of figured out a little bit of a groove for themselves. But that was a really fun way to close out the last match on World's Edge, which means we then have our next 3 matches on Storm Point right around the corner, ready to go. Before we do that, though, it's time to bring in another person for an interview. This time, we have the legend himself, Snipe Down, joining us here on the show. Welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling amped to watch some gameplay and then hop into the action tomorrow myself. So.
All right. Well, obviously, us casters were talking about it at the top of show today. So want to get your opinion, a little bit of insight on the recent roster change.
Like my current roster change?
Yeah.
So I was actually just in Chicago this past weekend, and Native was having some issues. McLovin wanted to find another team that was going to fit his style a little more, and then I got hit up by just the Native owners who I'm pretty close with, and they needed to find someone to fill that spot with McLovin because the roster lock was coming up quickly. And honestly, like I didn't know if I was going to play this split. I had a couple options, and it kind of was debating whether or not I wanted to. And Cole's been a heavy zone IGL for a while now, or RKN, if you don't know him as Cole. But I just decided like that'd be a good roster for me to kind of fit into. I've always, played with teams that are more zone heavy. I was with Rogue early on, with Sweet, very zone heavy, TSM, very zone heavy. And then with Phony, we were very zone heavy. So I feel like, even though I hadn't played with this squad as much time as we had leading up to the weekend, it was an easy way for me to slot in. And then it's just kind of putting in the work and figuring out how each other move around the map. And, hopefully we got some good results this weekend and can carry that momentum forward.
It sounds great. I'm very excited to see you back playing again. I've been watching you for far too many years now, to be honest with you, when it comes to competitive video games. How's that fire still for you? Because you said like you were waiting for an opportunity. There was some things that were options, but you didn't feel it was right. Is that fire still there for you? Are you excited to get back and play the split?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, as candid as possible, our team had a little bit of a implosion, I guess, during scrims yesterday, and it kind of, was a reality check, I think, for all of us to, we're not just here to show up. Every team that is at the top, they put in the work, and, they hold each other heavily accountable. They make a mistake, they drill each other. There's friendships are there to be on the outside of the game, but when you're inside the game, like, sometimes that passion has to be there. Sometimes you have to know, like, every one of us needs to be put in our place every now and then, just so, that fire's there, and it shows that we all want to win. Just because you make a mistake, it's not, oh, just go next. It's kind of, what did we really do wrong? Let's break it down. Let's, grill each other so that mistake doesn't happen again. If it happens once, that's fine. If it happens twice, like, it's a problem, So I think it's just one of those, we don't have that much time, like I said, but we have to show up every day. And since we are so far behind, we need to put in about 150, 200% of the effort, as a lot of these other teams that have been playing together for a couple weeks now. So I think it was, it was a good experience. I think sometimes you need to have those. We're all very mature on this team, got into a team call, all of us, and really just kind of hashed it out. And we're ready to show up, put in the work, and hopefully, come out strong tomorrow.
Well, it's great to have you back, and I wish you all the best with the new roster as well. Now, we're going to talk through a few of these final circles that we've already had, Eric, and I'd love to get your professional opinion on maybe something that you saw or how the game went and whether you do anything differently. Did anyone make any mistakes in this first one?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching this actually from the Pioneers' point of view. They were actually down the hill playing Caustic and wrapping up, and I thought that I thought they made a phenomenal wrap around the side right there. I think they may have rushed it a little bit and tried to get too many shots, and that's where we saw a little bit of the damage. And then we had it was kind of like all three teams were kind of fighting each other here, and I think if it was just slowed down a little bit, I think Pioneers could have actually wrapped up, gotten the backs, and won this game. But then we get into a 2v2 situation. You have the Moist roster here versus Most Hated, which I think it's very fun to watch this Moist roster as the big team change that happened, to see them kind of push forward. I think they're gonna have a lot of success. And then, they did the original damage. They kind of see Most Hated trapped on the knockdowns. They swarm, and then you got Timmy and Welty, who are two of the most individually talented players in the game. So they've been working together, putting in the time, and came out that first game with a big win.
Then here in match 2, the circle shifted a little bit further west than Monument, and it caught a few people off guard. Is it really difficult to try and get out of buildings when you see a circle shift like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think this zone, when we saw the pullback originally, it looked like it was going to end more further north towards like the satellite building up top. And I saw TSM and SKD were actually both holding the track side, and I thought that fight was going to happen earlier, because that's kind of the game-winning spot, is to hold the top of that hill. but TSM elected to kind of run down the hill. We saw them get picked off. They ended up getting a res, and I thought that they might actually be in a position to win this game when Complexity was kind of wrapping up the hill. It looked like they might fight each other, but SKD played this absolutely phenomenal. You know, they held as much space as they could to force all the teams down into the bottom half of the map, and ended up just cleaning up the kills as they forced the other two to fight each other and just got a couple KP. So that was very well executed out of them.
Now, this final circle, I said the last time I think we saw it was when you came out of the dropship with an heirloom.
Yeah.
How chaotic is a stacks finish?
I mean, we haven't seen as many stacks finishes. I mean, the closest thing that we have in relation to this are the skyhook zones that we've been getting, where the buildings are super congested. So the whole time I'm watching this team on roof, Fluffy Aimers, I'm just yelling, please someone drop on this light pole. They're gonna have great angles. And as soon as I said that, Presley drops right on top, gets a bunch of KP down low as he's looking down on all these teams. And then you have Energy, who's trapped in the building. So they played this as well as you could. No need to rush anything. Just kind of look down on the fights and, you know, send maybe one person in max, two people eventually, and then clean up all the KP around the outside.
Definitely well played on behalf of Fluffy Aimers as we get a chance to take a look at the series results right now, with Most Hated at the top by just 3 points above Fluffy Aimers. Complexity after that is still a very, very close top 7 right now. But Sancton, I want to get your thoughts in general on just how NA has been as a region competitively here in Split 2 so far, especially taking into consideration the POI draft changes.
Yeah, I actually been talking about this a lot. I think the POI draft changes it's been a great change overall for competitive Apex, like especially in North America, where we have a very high ceiling of, you know, all around teams. I mean, there's a ton of teams in this region that are qualified to do well. And now that, you know, we don't have the contest and certain teams getting the best POIs all the time, I think the results have been a lot more well-rounded. And you have teams that, you know, CCE's been killing it. You have Most Hated, you got Fluffy Aimers. These are teams that, you know, in these past splits, you haven't really seen doing as well, and we're seeing consistency in a lot of these zone teams that are able to take those POIs, draft middle zone picks, and overall, I mean, it's just fun. You're getting more exposure to a lot of new players, and it really does make these 6-game series come down to the wire. You could have a team that's in 4th place take 1st place. You could have a 4th place team then drop to 8th, 9th place. So every single game counts, every point counts. And I think it's interesting to see the different team comps and results of the drafting system itself. And I think that alone is huge for, analysts or whoever to decipher on where to pick on the maps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been keeping things interesting, to say the least. Well, it's almost time for us to get into our next match here, Eric. But thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with us. I can't wait to watch you play tomorrow with the new squad.
Can't wait to play. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's always nice to be able to chat with some of our players. I think he did a fantastic job kind of breaking that down, and he said it really well, Mark, pointing out just how much more exposure we're getting to different teams now that we have this draft system implemented.
I think if you look at the scores today, it kind of tells the story, right?
Yeah.
Look at EMEA, how close it was right until that last game. We were seeing teams switch from 7th to 1st, from 2nd down to 8th, like Eric was mentioning there. And I think Snowdown really summed it up well. It is a great leveler when it comes to the Apex Legends Global Series for some of these teams who have had to play from some pretty crappy POIs for some splits. So an opportunity to play from some of the best ones gives them a chance to re-announce themselves and say, hey, if we're playing from good POIs, we can get it done just as good as the big teams. And I think one thing I always love is a lack of contest means we get 20 teams going into that first circle, and that's always a good thing for me.
Well, we'll have to see what some of our teams are able to do with their new POIs heading into Stormpoint. Dan, that means it's time for us to say goodbye to you for now, while Mark and I start every time.
You hit that trapdoor button again, Lauren.
I gotta really lay off of that. He's gonna get injured eventually. But let's start talking about Starpoint. Okay, maps are swapping, POIs are changing, and this could also mean we're getting different results yet again for the next 3 matches to close out our NA region. Obviously, we've had 3 different winners here so far, similar to what we saw in EMEA. Lots of variety for our squads coming through, and now we're changing things on over to Stormpoint. Will we get some new teams coming through on this side of things? We've got a couple different names in some of the more desirable POIs. We've got Yup at the Mill, LG at Echo HQ, Empire Gaming at Lightning Rod, so maybe some opportunities for them now.
Yeah, you're looking at some of the Empire Gaming, by the way, they had a 2nd pick here and they went with Lightning Rod, so something to point out here is some of our bigger teams who chose some of the lesser POIs on World's Edge now get some better picks here on Storm Point. You're looking at Yup, like you mentioned, the Mill. You've got LG taking Echo, TSM at Zoo Station, Falcons taking Launchpad, and SSG at Pylon. So that's kind of the order of picks as far as Storm Point goes. And you can see that some of our biggest teams now moving over to Storm Point have a better opportunity for points based upon some stronger POIs. So the likes of SSG, the likes of Falcons, who haven't had a great World's Edge, well, this is their opportunity to put that right now on Storm Point.
And now, of course, we are starting things off with fluffy aimers to get into it right off of the bat. I think this could be a little bit of an opportunity for them to have some momentum. Like I was saying, last time we saw them in this group matchup, it was a lot more difficult for them. Obviously, there's so many factors that play into that, but I feel like they just look so much more confident here today.
Yeah, I'd say it's amazing what a win can do for your confidence, right? Even though it's World's Edge, even though it's a change of map, you just believe that you can win games. And sometimes you just need that to get over the line. It's crazy what one win can do for a team on their approach to the next fight, right? Knowing you've won a game, it's like how we can kill anyone. It doesn't matter who's in front of us. We're willing to take that fight if we think we've got the advantage in it. So a great opportunity for Fluffy Aimers to keep that momentum going. But looking at zone, it could be moving up north a little bit, and it's going to be an Elrod zone or somewhere between Stormcatcher and Elrod, maybe pulling down a little bit to the south side. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays. And I tell you what, that pick for Empire Gaming looking pretty good right now over at Lightning Rod.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be happy with that, as will TSM, a team that we've watched get really close so far the first 3 matches to having some really solid performances, not able to get that win now, finding themselves at Zoo Station right outside this next circle. So they'll be able to at least get themselves looted up, hit that Evo Harvester, and start moving into any sort of priority position that they might want to take.
Yeah, really good opportunity for them to do so. Like you say, Empire Gaming, though, the one thing when you do get the zone going towards you and you've got like a big POI like Elrod is like, how much can you loot before somebody gets there? And so it's kind of a little bit of a different situation where usually you're thinking, hey, we want to kind of like loot all of this. We've got a huge POI. You can see how much ground is covered by Elrod. Well, maybe you don't get all the loot that you would have wanted you would have for a zone that's slightly further away. But one thing that you do have, of course, is prio to where you believe that zone is, where that zone is going. You can see they've moved over to the pyramid building, to the little compound where you have the broken armory as well. So this is where they're going to play on for now. And with Trev stacked as well on the rampart, they can pretty much play wherever they want. And this is the spot they've chosen. CC have chosen, excuse me.
You know, scoping things out, lining up any potential shots here. Rampart giving them a little bit of that additional cover. You can see some silhouettes off in the distance. They'll be looking for those shots.
That charge rifle, by the way, through the rampart wall is going to do about 800 damage per shot. So don't get hit by it, is my advice for anyone who sees that.
Just quality advice.
Yeah.
LG on a little bit of a drive-by rotation here. Starting to move through Pylon. Seeing if there's anybody along the way that they're going to potentially rotate into. Trying to go for that console and see if they can get a little bit of information here. And then plan their next rotation through from there.
I mean, LG dropping over at Echo HQ. They were 3rd pick on Storm Point this time. So this is a rough zone for them, having got such a strong POI early on. Always good to scan that height, by the way, because there's sometimes teams just ratting up there. But Sykes will be able to hit that ring console, like you say. That's going to get him a little bit closer towards those purple Evos, now just 600 or so away. And with the Trident, it wouldn't be surprising to see them just kind of path themselves towards some Evo harvesters that they can pick up and drive by, overextend a little bit more, knowing they can get back towards the teammates if they do see some available. But talking about where zone is, talking about what teams are already there. Falcons, they're working their way up the east side of the zone at the moment, up the hill. You've got NGNL who are just behind them as well. Complexity already in zone as well. We did see CC and Empire and TSM are inside a Lightning Rod. So a lot of teams already there, but Yup taking some damage early on.
Finding themselves in a sticky situation here with Not Moist, and definitely a team you don't want to have any sort of an early game engagement. However, they do have a bit of a shield advantage, but Not Moist is getting aggressive, flying right on top of them and seeing if they can maybe take it to him.
Yeah, Elevate Gaming got it in the meantime, so our first team out of the lobby in record time for today in North America. It's been quite some time, usually, until one team has been eliminated. But one thing to note, of course, we do have a change of maps now, so Storm Point always lends itself to a little bit more early fighting than we do see sometimes on World's Edge. But you can also see a little bit of a Trident 360 taking place here, as it looks like Yup will be able to get into position to escape, get that res off, and maybe think about a different rotate. Elsewhere, you see Oxygen having a hold off here as they went for that survey beacon, and someone got peeled off of it.
All right, a little bit of a scuffle here with Board. Beast of the Hunt is popped on behalf of Board as they're trying to see if they can maybe deal a little bit of damage here up against OXG. Yeah, it's not connecting.
It can happen. We've all been there, right? You think that player's in the corner, you get the scan, maybe he's the other side of the wall, maybe he's a little bit more tucked in than you thought originally. So OXG do manage to get the res and get back up, and you can see Vane's popped his Beast of the Hunt as well. So it's a kind of bloodhound off at the moment. Who's just going to last longer and who's going to have the scan first?
They've got a little bit of time to have this kind of back and forth, as well as they don't have anybody else in the vicinity. And it looks like OSG want to be aggressive here as they decide to drop in on the building and see if they can maybe find some angles here.
I mean, Oxygen never been afraid of a fight. And Vane with the Havoc in his hands can certainly be someone to enter the fight and create that first knock, that entry frag that you're so desperate to look for when you have these isolated 3v3s. But the difficulty for Oxygen is you don't want to be the first one to drop and two players be looking at one of those doorways or windows. So you've got to just wait and be a little bit patient here. Try and play the damage. There is nobody else within 2 POIs of where this fight is taking place right now. So this could go on for like genuinely like 3-4 minutes before someone has to commit to something.
It's possible that Board are going to decide they just want to dip out and not really kind of deal with wasting any of their resources for this back and forth. Will open up the opportunity for OXG to hit that beacon, grab this harvester, get themselves onto purple, which is massive. And it ends up being a very peaceful engagement.
Yeah, they sat around the table there. The peace treaty was signed, and both teams decide to play it out as a 3. It's like Board gave them the beacon after initially getting that knock and said, "Okay, we'll take it afterwards. Okay, we can play that game." Elsewhere, as you look at the zone, you can see how busy it is at the moment, and we are seeing a lot of the zones pull towards the eastern side where Empire went early on. Falcons obviously there as well. SSG right behind them though. And a lot of teams moving up on the eastern side of this zone means that choke and that elevation is going to be so difficult to navigate with so many teams already there. So the likes of NGNL and SSG are going to have a really tough time moving uphill, especially when you've got a team like Falcons looking down on you who don't miss too many shots historically. So it's going to be a really tough rotate for both these teams.
Yeah, it's gonna those chokes are gonna start to get a little bit messy. Meanwhile, 2 of our teams that landed very far south, you can see NRG and Not Moist making their way through with quite a bit of space between themselves and any of those other teams. They might be able to capitalize on that on the southern side if the Team Falcons and SSGs of the worlds end up starting to do damage to anyone that's making a slow push through on those chokes. Oxygen heading that direction as well towards NGNL. So we'll have to see how all of that plays out. But we're starting to get some shots fired here. No full engagement though. Everybody playing this one a little bit slower this time around.
Yeah, I think everyone's just trying to, if you're in zone, you're in zone right now. You're very happy with where you found yourself. Everyone who's trying to approach zone at the moment is trying to kind of tiptoe their way up because they know there's 19 squads alive, right? So every corner has to be checked. Every little rock has to be scanned if you're a bloodhound. And you need to make sure that every step that you take, you're not going to get caught off guard. Who's someone who's on that extreme elevation. I would say like this is one of the most like extreme elevation end zones that we have on Storm Point in all of the ALGS. Elrod is a tough customer to try and navigate if you're moving from the south, and that's why you've seen the likes of OXG, SSG just playing with a lot of trepidation at the moment, and Board are going to be another team now who has to move up and through these rocks towards Elrod themselves. So a really difficult rotate. One team I'd be interested in keeping an eye on is LG, who are over at Zoo Station at the moment. They're taking their time to maybe hold out some of these teams. They want to clear their back on the west side of this zone, and if they can do that, then they can approach from the north and play a little bit later on towards the northern side. So interesting decision for LG. Fluffy Aimers, the winners of our previous game though, they're in the Spider Cave right now, but they take a little bit of damage.
they might potentially be one of those teams that could find themselves in the crosshairs of LG, but right now they've run into SKD and Most Hated. So let's jump into a listening with Fluffy Aimers to see how they want to handle the situation.
What the fuck there in that corner? For us, low key, bro. Do we go fight this?
I think we hold them out. I think we hold them out.
Oh, we don't have much space though. We don't have much space.
Should we just take the car and leave? Like, we can go back to Storm.
I'm trying to like get space with the car.
Yeah, I'm bang ulting that, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm smoking up a bit. They're stuck in that corner, man. Like, I'm bang ulting forward. They're gonna move. Get ready to fight. Get ready to fight.
Can you wall them right? Can you wall them off, maybe? Oh, fuck.
I'm putting us cover.
Yeah.
I'm watching out. Scanning 3. Scanning 3. About to go right. Scanning.
They're still there. One's up on height.
I got short sentied again. I gotta heal. I'm watching the cross.
Be careful, be careful. I can't hold that.
I'm gonna ult it then.
Yeah, we're still in. I'm healing.
Careful.
Yeah.
It's bad, 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 bad.
Wait.
What nades?
Play the wall, play the wall.
I think we just get back through the command.
Take the car, ready? I'm getting in, Get in. Dude, it fucking bugged, man.
We go to command, and we have evacs.
Yeah.
That was definitely the play there to back off. I don't even know if they realized just how many teams were about to be around the corner from them. They've now escaped SKD and Most Hated. However, they're taking a lot of damage, having to make a very long rotation back through outside of the circle here. So have to see what happens to them. But meanwhile, you've got Not Moist finally making their way up close enough to start getting into some fights. It's going to be NGNL who they're going up against.
Yeah, 45 seconds until zone closes, so the fights are going to have to take place. And this is the eastern side of zone that I was talking about being very congested, a very tough rotate uphill. A lot of teams know that if they win it, though, it's a really strong position to hold for that endgame. That's why you're seeing the decision made to try and move uphill through these chokes. And Not Moist at the moment looking for entry damage, not going to be able to quite get it as yet onto NGNL, but the difficulty is that SSG are also in the vicinity. They're across in the other side of this compound, and if Nox come in, expect SSG to try and pounce on this in third.
Little bit of a lull here as Not Moist tries to connect and see if they can maybe get an opening for them to push inside and take this position off of NGNL. Like you said, a couple shots coming in from across the way from SSG as they know that there's a little bit of action happening over here. And it looks like Not Moist is going to go in and try to see if they can maybe clean this one up.
Yeah, it seems like a little bit of a change places situation, right? Because the building now becomes moist. And NGNL play the outside of it, but the zone is a problem. Look at the zone. It's forcing all these teams together. SSG still waiting for their opportunity to third party. That was the play call from them, but nothing has happened as yet, which has allowed them to move forward. And in the meantime, Falcons are still overlooking this to the north. Any kind of remnants of these teams that has to move uphill in a few minutes' time, Falcons are going to be sitting there waiting to take advantage of it. Fluffy Aimers, who jumped on that trident, wrapped through zone, well, they're going to be playing below the building at the moment. Fluffy Aimers down to just 2, though, if they lost Presley.
They went into a choke that was already filled with a lot of other teams. Most Hated going down in the kill feed while all of this is going off. And I believe that they will be followed by Not Moist. Like you said, Falcons in a perfect position to gatekeep that area. But now it's SSG who are trying to do their best here. They're just down to 2. That was a lot of damage that Koi just ate.
Yeah, and Zainu's taking a lot of zone damage as well. Look at this. He's trying to find some heals to play with. But here come the Falcons. And even though the scans come in, it's a pretty difficult push for them to have to make. I think it's a better idea just to slow this one down a little bit, wait for them to move towards you. Complexity eliminated in the meantime. You get the idea here for Falcons, right? They want to push. They see this as free KP, and it will be. But overcommitting here and throwing, it could be a horrible situation, but instead they fly in, they get the job done by the looks of things, and it will be SSG who are eliminated. So Falcons get their job done. LG now move into their position as well, and I said they'd be playing from the north. Well, somehow they've wrapped all the way into the compound now, which is one of the best places to be.
Managed to sneak past all of the chaos. It'll be huge for LG. Honestly, Falcons are going to be really scary as well. If NGNL hadn't fought SSG in that situation, I think Falcons would be potentially in a different position right now. But now they own that southern edge. You've got LG pretty set up for themselves here, looking at everyone else across the way. You see NRG on top of this building, and this building is where everyone's going to have to move out of very shortly, and that's where it's going to get rough.
Well, one thing to note is I was joking about Trev stacks and his sniper rifles a little bit earlier on. Well, he's got the biggest one in the game at the moment. He's found himself a Kraber, so CCE in a very good spot. Fluffy Hamer's final pieces will be taken care of as they will be eliminated, and we find ourselves now down to 12. A note as well on LG, the fight that they took against Empire, who had, of course, the Elrod drop. They won that fight, and that's why they're in the position they find themselves right now. But Oxygen, this is what I mean about the tough rotate from south to north. If you're landing down low, down on the southern side of Storm Point, Elrod is almost inaccessible at times if teams stack up, and they're finding that out right now for themselves.
They're trying to outrun the damage from the other teams, also trying to outrun any sort of damage from this zone, and Aiden is not going to survive. This will go down. It's all on Vayne, who's also knowing he's not going to make it out. It's better to just lie and let it happen here as OXG2 go out. And now everyone else is facing the same issue. Everyone's dropping at the same time, and I feel like the zone's doing more work than half our players.
Yeah, the zone is kill leader at the moment. Yup will be eliminated. Eternal go down as well. SKD go down. NRG go down. Everybody is falling over, and Carter, don't be another victim to the zone. He is 1 HP and will be taken care of as well. And it's Charge Rifle Kraber for Trev stacks. The man is the living embodiment of his own meme. He loves a sniper rifle.
I mean, if they're just gonna hold this and annoy people from a distance, you might as well commit to the cause entirely. They've managed to be here this entire time, and no one's really looked their way, and now they find themselves in a decent spot to at least keep people off of them. But everyone does know they're in this corner. You've got Board on one side, Team Falcons on the other, and then a little bit of a smattering of everybody else after so many teams either died fully or lost the majority of their squad as they had to push in out of that building. We've got 2 left on TSM right now. CCE managing to clear out Board on that left side. Weave is eliminated, and CCE move up.
That's a real opportunity for Falcons to move up and try and clear this side of the zone. And while they do so, let's jump into the comms of Team Falcons.
Shoot him back.
On my left. I'm nothing. Ramp up. Cracked.
Why were you open? Cracked over.
Put it back. You have a creeper right by the creeper. I made it. The ramp up.
You can
smoke for me? Can you smoke for me?
Cattle right side. No, this way.
I did.
Smoking one. I'm smoking 4 you, Hal. I'm smoking the wall. I smoked the ramp wall. I broke it as well. I flexed him. Get involved. Go.
Dead. Kill one. Standing.
On me. 1 HP.
Lobo's left. Armor's up.
I need the Kraber.
Dead. Armor's up. Data team's still alive.
Okay.
I'm safe for me. Yeah, you're in there. Where are we?
I know Solo's.
Wait, yeah,
on the right. Move forward.
On the right. Solo's on the right. Okay.
We gotta kill him.
I'm going right.
I'm smoking.
While that's all happening, they're doing loads of damage to CCE, able to take them out. TSM now down to a solo. LG just had their lawn chairs out, able to watch all of this go down, and LG just gets to have everyone push towards them and start doing damage as everyone's forced to get closer.
Now, the one thing that LG don't know is that there's a Kraber in the hands of Zero, but my God, Zero doesn't have it anymore because those shots that came in from Funk were exceptional. That takes the Kraber out of the game. He takes TSM out of the game, and now he says, let me pop this ulti. Let me go and win the game for us.
There's no reason for that to make the final push here after knowing they have a massive advantage, and after LG secure the best position they could have possibly gotten, they also secure the win. That was massive for LG. A huge spot on behalf of you as well, Mark, noting that they were able to even make that rotation after fighting Empire to get to that spot. That was beautifully called by LG.
An amazing game by LG and Funk. I mean, he's going to be the standout player for me in those final moments, right? When you see Falcons and you know they have a Kraber like we did, you're expecting Zero to be able to line up a shot. And I was about to say, Funk's got to be careful here, playing up on this high ground, because he doesn't know, but we know that there's a Kraber in play in the hands of Zero. His response to that is, I'm not even going to let him fire a bullet. I'm going to hit almost perfect shots with my gun and make sure he's taken down as quickly as possible. And then it's cleanup crew. LG, like you say, they win the important fight for the God spot, but then it's just about execution, and Zero got executed by the other shots that came in from Funk.
I mean, LG was just so ready. They didn't even need the shield advantage, but they had it over a lot of the people that they were shooting at. They had the height, they had sight lines, they had everything they could have possibly needed to make that final fight go their way. And it also definitely helped that along the way, whether it was the zone doing the majority of the work for people or whether it was Falcons on that southeast side clearing out like 3 or 4 squads, a lot of the heavy lifting was already done.
Yeah, it was quite a crazy game, that one, actually, as we take a look at the match 4 results. And you're right, it was like a lot of teams were trying to think, how do we rotate to this one? How do we try and get into this zone with so many teams? The zone is causing us even more problems. We are now dead. LG, though, they will be on top of the pile. 7 kills alongside their 12 placement points. 19 overall. Falcons, big kills for them. And CCE also some big kills for them as well. Gives them 17 points. TSM as a duo, by the way, managing to make it into the top 3. They made a really smart rotate early into Elrod and managed to play that one out to get into the top 3. A couple of kills alongside it as well. Should I say 3 kills alongside it. A very good game too for TSM.
It's like that dual sniper paid off for CCE. They're at least getting some massive points on the board. And then, you know, we talk about some of those teams that went out early. SSG, Empire, kind of finding themselves caught in rough spots when it came to having to start making those rotations through some chokes. They ran across the wrong teams at the time. Team Falcons being the one that took out SSG and LG against Empire Gaming. So not exactly easy fights to have to take early on. And I think in general, that zone was just tough for some of these teams.
It was indeed. Here's a comparison of some of the stats between our first and second place teams. And you can see pretty even across the board. The assists looking pretty good and the damage. No surprise to see Falcons on top there with the way that they held out a lot of those teams who were trying to rotate uphill from the east. But a fascinating game for a number of reasons. One, the zone doing so much damage, but that is after so many years now of casting the Apex Legends Global Series and being lucky enough to do it. That's the first time I've seen one player running Charge Rifle Kraber, and I am here for it.
It honestly, it worked for them. So we can't even say anything about it as we get to see our series results now and where everyone has ended up. And it's just getting even closer. Tied at the top for 36 points is LG and Most Hated. Then tied in second, Fluffy Aimers and SKD at 34. Then 2 points behind that, NRG 1 point behind that Team Falcons. 2, then 1, then 2, then 1. What is happening?
POI draft is happening, everybody. That's what's happening, and that's why it's so close. Also, we're seeing some damn good Apex Legends coming in from some of these teams, and I think, I gotta be honest, the standout for today for me so far has been Most Hated, right? What a performance it's been from them. Just every single game, they seem to be there or thereabouts, and if they can keep that up in the last 2 games, which is a long way to go, remember, still a lot of points on the board, then they're gonna be in a great spot.
Yeah, I think things are only going to continue to get even more exciting in our last 2 matches of the day. Before we get into match number 5, though, it's time for a short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Battle Beaver is the official controller partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back to the ALGS, everybody. North America is certainly showing up today, and with 2 games to go, Dan, it's good news for you because we had a few extra seconds on that timer because you had a little bit of a sneezing fit just before we came back live, but you've come through it. I'm happy for you.
Ooh, yeah, usually I do 3 as well. I only sneezed twice. I was panicking for a short while, but I'm okay. What a match 4 that was, by the way. Crazy how many people were dying to the zone, but I guess it's just one of those scenarios, right?
Yeah, it certainly is indeed. And we'll take a look back on some of those final moments of that game. We see TSM as a solo. It's Reps last alive, but it's the shots from Funk, right? I was worried for a second that Zero was going to be able to line up a shot with that Kraber, but he didn't even get a chance to, I think, pull it out to even scoping it at any point. He got absolutely decimated.
It's just, it was a funny game to watch, but also a very entertaining one at the same time. I think that as soon as LG were able to get that knock, they knew full well the game was theirs, and they pushed with such confidence to be able to secure that win. And not only do they get the win, but it sends them to the top of the leaderboard as well, going into match 5 and match 6. And North America is extremely competitive. This is about as tight as it gets. When we said how close it was earlier in EMEA, even more so here in North America today.
Yeah, I have to wonder if anyone's going to be able to separate themselves from the pack in match number 5 on Storm Point, or if we are going to go again, like we did in EMEA, into match number 6, not knowing who is going to come out on top and not knowing who's going to be in the top 10, let alone in first place. So a lot of Apex Legends still to play today. This is an entertaining day of Apex Legends in the Pro League. We hope that you're all enjoying it at home as well. And just remember, you want to watch it in a little bit of a different way, then hop over to FACEIT Watch. Check out your favorite team. You can do that by going over to fce.gg/watch-ALGS to make sure that you don't miss any of the action. But Dan, I mean, I've got to say, I'm very, very impressed with the decisions that were made by LG in that previous game. The rotates, the way that they took that fight against Empire after evacing in was quite something.
And what we expect from a team like LG, right? I mean, they know, and we've seen it before in the past, of how they play this video game. And when you put them in a game where they have the opportunity to move in that way, they're gonna make it count. Sometimes things can get in your way when you're making those rotations. Maybe it'd be someone being a little bit sporadic with their decision, or maybe someone just is a thorn in the side like we've seen earlier. But when everything is laid out in front of you like that, and you're able to manipulate the map in that way, it is beautiful to see it done in front of our very eyes. And it does put LG at the top of the leaderboard. 36 points they find themselves on now. They are joint top with most hated. Can they start to create a gap here in match number 5?
Also good news for LG, there was no gold knocks in the vicinity in that endgame as well, so nothing to raise any nightmares, and a little bit of PTSD for them. We're all having fun here, LG. Don't worry, sweet, I'm not coming for you. You had a very good last game. LG then, we're going to start off with them, and you can see how difficult that rotate was for them in that last game, right? They're dropping right down at the southern side of the map, and I mentioned how inaccessible to a lot of teams the northern side is, especially Elrod. Well, LG managed to win it from here, Dan, which makes that performance even more impressive.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that it wasn't a zone that was necessarily good for them, but the fact that they now have Echo HQ, which, you know, still is one of the most popular POI picks on Stormpoint, they're going to be pretty happy that the fact that they have a good game in the previous, but it's another zone where they're going to have to really work hard to get over towards checkpoint. So, you know, it's your ups and your downs, right? You might have picked one of the best POIs statistically. However, the zones sometimes still aren't going to be in your favor.
It's interesting, isn't it? If they hadn't won that last game and got like a top 10, for example, which I think from the southern side of the map wouldn't be too surprising, so to speak, they'd probably be looking at that map popping up right now and that zone popping and going, really? We have to go back to the north? But the fact that they won the last game, they're probably thinking, all right, guys, lock in, another win here. Let's prove that we're the best team in the lobby. And the attitude will be a little bit different, but not Moist. Winning game number 1, a little bit quieting the games after that, and maybe looking to bounce back a little bit in the same way that LG did from the southern side of the map.
Yeah, they're both going to be moving their way in a similar fashion, you'd imagine, but whether they'll come into play against one another, that remains to be seen. It's almost like a race who can actually get to certain chokes first before the other, and then you've also got Falcons in the same area, so not fun from the southern side, as Not Moist make their move through. Complexity in 7th position right now, and as I alluded to right at the top here of the match number 5, we are so close when it comes to this lobby. There is only 11 points separating 1st to 11th here in North America, so it is still wide open for anyone to win this match day.
Serious question.
Yes.
Do you remember anyone running Charger Rifle Kraber before? Even in, I was trying to think about, even in the craziness when that thing was a hit scan weapon. Do you remember it?
I really don't. I think it must have happened accidentally at some point where someone just dropped the wrong weapon and they're like, oh, well, now I've got a Kraber Charger Rifle.
Though?
But deliberately, no. I can't imagine it has happened. It was certainly a sight to behold, especially as a rampart through the rampart walls as well.
Yeah, it's like seeing a unicorn. Doesn't happen very often. In fact, it doesn't happen at all because they're a mythical creature. But anyway, CCE who had a pretty good game. And speaking of Kraber charge rifle, you've got the man on your screen right now who's got the charge rifle. We're looking for a Kraber maybe in the care packages that come down a little bit later on. But Trev Stacks, he loves his sniper rifles, everybody, if you didn't know. And yeah, he's living up to that once again. Complexity making their way up north at the moment after a little bit of a travel through command center. Elsewhere at the moment, trying to look around at who's making their moves, and TSM certainly are making one of their moves. That's a very well evaluated evac tower over the top of those armored structures, and you can see that they're going right over to the north side here. Maybe they're playing for the rocks, maybe they're playing for the donuts, or maybe they're playing for the third, because they can see a smoke going down, which may allow them to move in if damage is done.
We saw a very similar circle in Apex South Day 2, where it just finishes north of checkpoint, kind of over the mountains to the east of Down Beast. So we are seeing a few teams starting to set up in that area as well, with the buildings that surround it, as TSM just looking to clean up any pieces here to get the extra damage. There is a team who is surviving with the Dark Veil right now, but TSM are probably not going to push them and instead just hold the position that they fought.
There's that charge rifle. Reps has just relayed that information to his teammates by saying they have a charge rifle. I just got blasted by it. And that's going to be Trev Stacks. Again, probably that will be the secondary call out because there's not many players in the lobby who will be running it. Maybe Monsoon. We did see him on World's Edge running it a little bit as well. So that's where the circle is going to be going. Like you say, Dan, it's going to be going north of checkpoint. So again, when it comes to accessibility to some of these zones, these extreme northern zones become very, very difficult. We saw it in EMEA earlier, right? A lot of teams end up having to be forced to fight in and around checkpoint to play for those KP and then rotate in late. But so many, look, I mean, even look at the north side. Look at Eternal. Look how far out they are at the moment. They're playing the backside of one of those fingers underneath it, or they might actually, excuse me, playing the extreme height of the northern side of the map. But it's such a tough zone to enter. So many bad playable spots, I would say. The trench is playable for some time, but you always know that someone is going to be looking down at you at some point.
Yeah, if you're one of the late movers here, you have to presume that every angle is going to be taken. So you have to think a bit creatively about where you want to approach or get aggressive with the other teams that are in the edge, just as SSG are doing right now. Not been the best of days for SSG, but I thought that maybe Storm Point we'd start to see a bit more, but because they were mid-table when it came to the POI draft, they do get two pretty average POIs to work with, so not the easiest of days.
We'll be able to secure the kill onto Vayne, though, after they got that initial knock. It's the last two players of Oxygen who are trying to move away at the moment. TSM not having fun right now. As you can see that both Reps and Verhulst are down, and there goes Zap as well. So TSM are eliminated after a good game number 4. It's not going to be a game to remember here in game 5.
I think that's going to be the scenario for a lot of these teams that are on the edge here. Take a fight. If you lose it, no big deal, because you probably weren't going to get to the late game anyway. As Elevate looking to try and press their advantage right now. Havoc Hemlock, we've seen that before, and it can certainly be deadly when it does come into fire. And a lot of these teams who are around, like Elevate, SSG, NRG, they have to kind of pick up some KP here, you'd imagine. Otherwise, they're just going to find themselves limping into zone and struggling to find any sort of playable space. A team that I am interested in their journey is Not Moist, because they're currently making the biggest wrap on the eastern side. And I don't mean an edible wrap, I mean an actual physical wrap around the map, to see if they can maybe go up north, potentially, and take the route through the wall, which certainly will be an interesting one.
Eternal at the moment, they are in one of the better positions. They are inside of the POI. They are chilling right now. They also have the Catalyst to reinforce some doors to keep control, but there is a little bit of company. SKD having a little look at this as well. And you can hear the footsteps of the teams in and around, and this is something you have to get very comfortable with in the Apex Legends Global Series, those footsteps, because they're a little bit scary sometimes. If you're in ranks, you're not sure where your opponents are, but when you're coexisting inside of buildings in the ALGS, well, you've got to get used to that feeling and certainly that sound. Most hated on the other side of this, who have had a fantastic day so far today, Dan. 36 points on the board for them.
Yeah, right from the very start, really, we've been impressed with what Most Hated have been able to do, and most importantly, they have kept their pace with the other big teams in this lobby. And they'll want to do more of the same. Going into match 6, if they believe they still have a chance to win this entire thing, it would be an incredible day for them. But at the moment, it's just about holding this position on the far northwest. But they've got Eternal right next to them. Complexity not so far away as well. And the further we get into this zone, the more congested it's going to be. Knocked has just been knocked. Lou has done the damage. And SKD just trying to stick back here and hoping they can get back up to a full 3.
They should be able to get him back up. You can see they're throwing the bang out, but the problem is if that The little audio cue goes off. And by the way, Lou is hunting for this. Look at Lou. Lou is going in right now. Lou wants to kill them all himself. Oh no, it's a little bit of an overextension, but are the rest of Complexity able to clean up this damage? Scans coming in from above. You can see Monsoon is trying to keep his head on the swivel. They want these KP. They want to finish this fight, and Mon is flying in to try and do so.
Well, there's a reason why Lou is the kill leader at the moment, or he was coming into today's games. He leads the charge, but it's Monsoon who's going to be the one following up. And alongside Kimchi, they should get the damage. They will, and SKD get eliminated. But is anyone else going to drop on this? Or do Complexity get a full reset, and they will be rewarded for their aggression? It looked dicey, but maybe they get back up to a full 3 here. But Falcons, they've heard what's happening. There are so many teams fighting for this northwest position.
Well, Zero gets hit by that charge rifle as well, so he's going to be the second player in the lobby to go. Someone's got a charge rifle. And he's going to have to pop that Phoenix kit for now. Now, this is a very sketchy situation for Falcons to have to play. This is not somewhere they want to play for the long game here. They're either going to look for some KP, look to push the teams inside of this building and take one of these floors, or they're going to have to wrap away from this position, because for the long game, this is so difficult to hold. Now, they do have the Catalyst, I believe, in their composition, which will give them a little bit of temporary cover if they need it, but it's only going to be temporary. I'd expect Falcons to try and come up with a plan pretty quickly.
There's a few people who have to come up with a quick plan, because you're not going to get much time to think when this zone shifts and when you realize where you have to go, because it is going to continue to move north of checkpoint, but those who are in the far northwest are actually going to have to move a little bit further east over towards the trenches. Now, a few teams did commit to trenches and will be rewarded, one of those being SSG. LG, though, at the moment, they're on this western side. They've got Elevate ahead of them. Board are on the northern side as well. It isn't going to be an easy push-in for them, but let's see how they navigate it with a listen-in with LG.
Careful, I need a smoke. I need a smoke.
No smoke, no smoke.
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I'm gonna make it. Can swing you? Make it?
Yeah, I'm dropping on the switch right here. We see him push them back. We don't want to hard hit them. We're going to get shot in the back side.
Third as well.
Bang 30.
Just hold them on that corner. They'll get shot inside. They're back here. Crack bang 68. He might die.
I'm crossing for the make it. Crossing for the make it.
He's getting
shot. He's getting slammed.
Yeah,
I need to hit this make it.
Yeah,
I have ulti kills.
Hit the make in chill. Hit the make in chill. Pop your ulti kills.
I almost showed that. My bad.
They're all in a rock in front of me. Cracked 100.
Come in.
Like right up here. I think they're sliding down, bro.
Popping ulti. Yeah, they're fucked, bro.
Yeah, that's good.
Really, bro?
Yeah, they were gonna walk in to play this.
Do you have an ulti cell or no?
I do.
But.
All right, I'm 14-2.
I'm 3-3.
Ooh. Big Phoenixes?
No, 3-3.
Okay, now listen to me. We need to evac, land here on this rock safely, and wall down to play this corner for a second, okay?
Yeah.
And then we ideally
we
move
evac
to
from?
this corner. We're just gonna evac from literally right here. I don't think
we can drop her here. We can drop her here. Yeah.
Wait, no, we need to be careful of these kids again. Yeah. They might have walked up again. Hey, we need to leave. We're gonna get inted on by someone who doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
I'll drop.
The plan, we're landing on the rock spot safely on the side of the big rock, and you're walling off our right. This will be our threat on the crossover.
You want to pop Hound ult?
No, I do not think we need it.
I have it now.
Looking here.
I have Hound ult. I'm gonna save it though.
Make sure you're swerving in the fucking air, guys. Joystick left, joystick right.
Yep.
And mind this. Make sure you're
go far left. Go far left. We're not making that.
They're not here anymore. Land on. No, they're there. Back up. Land back here.
I'll pop on. Popping on.
I'm on him.
I scanned 1 second.
They left. They walked back.
Let me get behind him.
Play slow. We want to walk in from here. Play slow. We want to walk in from here. I'm watching her back.
Look at her back.
We can walk into this. They're gonna be fucking in shambles on this rock.
One died.
Nice. Try to fold that. I need to watch her back.
I'm watching her back with you.
I got the full. I'm showing.
Okay, nice. Evacs and checkpoint.
Can we get our height? Can we get our high ceiling land on it?
Yeah. We'll get on the height.
We need to get ready to wall. They're fighting here. Huge fight. Walk over to me. Fuck her back.
They're crossing in the open.
Fuck her back. They're all three. 16 flash. We need to take all this. Take the big rock. Kill everyone here. The Rampart team's gonna be playing the corner. You guys are healing. Be mindful of our bottom right. Bottom right in front of us.
Scanning.
Yeah, they slid down. Look,
just show me. Save me.
Gazebo left side. They're all on the pills. I'm nading them.
You guys chill? You guys are
I got a swap down. I have a swap down.
They're losing gazebo. Stop right here.
Yeah, there's a team below us in the corner.
We need to kill these guys. They're double blue.
No nades.
I'm gonna get above them.
Bro, I'm pretty duo in the thing here, by the way.
Can I scan? Wait, I'm scanning.
I want these fucking kills.
I'm getting above them.
Kill them. So much damage. Lane one.
We're getting on the side. We're getting on the side.
One. Kick. Slow. They might watch the right ramp. Watch your right ramp.
Yeah, I am. I'm not.
Bang one right here. Bang one right here.
Naked and sweet. I'm making it. Watch your right ramp.
Watch our right ramp. 1 HP.
Well, LG are very much in the zone. I absolutely love what I'm hearing from them at the moment. The passion, the intensity, and the calls from Sweet is the perfect formula for success for LG.
Even teaching them how to swerve in the air with your thumbstick is now elevated. They're getting involved with their thumbs as Not Moist get eliminated. 14 squads now remain, but it does mean Elevate will be on this eastern side pretty much alone, except for SSG above them. They might be able to get somewhat of an isolated fight. NRG a little bit further than that. Now, all the commotion that was happening on the west, LG have been able to lock down a relatively comfortable position for now, but the circle continues to shift towards the north and to that building where we saw all the teams trying to take right at the start of this game.
Elsewhere, checkpoint. This is the remnants of the rotate for the teams who unfortunately just couldn't get into the zone earlier. Elsewhere in the kill feed, by the way, Sweet is doing more work for LG. CCE have been eliminated in the meantime, but Pioneer's down to 2 as we go back over to LG. Fluffy Aimer's out. Funk down to 1 HP, but should be able to survive for now, and KP starting to stack up here for LG.
Yeah, LG are going to run into Board, I think, and they don't actually know where Board are just yet, and it might even be a solo. Oh no, it is a full team. And they are very much waiting to pounce.
I think it might just be.
Is it just a 2? It is just a 2, I think, yeah.
He's just do it. Sometimes things stacks up and looks like 2, could be 3, and then we find out it's definitely 2. And if they get that information and they do scan that way, then trust me, LG will be thinking about aping that and picking up some more KP for themselves, especially with the momentum that they do have on their side. And now you're going to see Sweet make the call. They want to try and rotate towards this zone to give it a little bit more damage, and there's the surprise element. But it's not so surprising if your name's Funk. Great damage coming in from him.
I think they had seen that they were there. You saw the ping happen before the scan, so LG were able to sniff them out, and now Board will just retreat and try and run to stay alive. But LG secure this position on the west, and they can hold here for quite some time. But it is still all about that building where Falcons, Eternal, Complexity, and Most Hated currently hold. But LG certainly picking up a good amount of kills here to keep themselves at the top of the leaderboard. Fluffy Aimers were eliminated earlier, so LG are creating a bit of a gap now between them and second place.
Interesting to see that Falcons are in the same position that we left a few moments ago as well. They did try and move out a couple of times, but the fights have just not been there for them to third party and take advantage of. So they've had to retreat now and play the front side of this building. So inside of the top 10, everybody with some placement points for now. And SSG, what a chance this is as LG continue this run of destruction.
We heard it in the listening. Sweet just said, kill everyone. Let's kill everyone from here. They realize that the position they find themselves in might not win them the game, but certainly can pick up a lot of KP, because now this is going to come to the most difficult part of the game for them, right? They have to try and force their way into a zone and into a circle where there is too many teams that currently reside there. So they either have to sneak in, go unnoticed, and then maybe do some damage, or really force their way into said building. But even that's going to be tougher than it sounds. On the other side, Elevate have got to move. SSG and Empire, all of those 3 teams have to arrive from the eastern side, but it's all about this building. Falcons are playing down low, but everyone else is holding that build.
Elevator on the southern side of this zone. LG trying to move forward, and no surprise to see that Sweet has managed to get himself up to red Evo, and a lot of that has come through pure damage. LG now trying to move, trying to cross, trying to take another fight. LG are going to take some damage though. Sweet's going to take some damage, but he doesn't go down without exchanging some himself. Funk will fall, LG will fall. It was one push too many, and it was Falcons who were shooting them in the side as they made that cross. So Falcons making this position work somehow or other at the moment.
A valiant effort from LG. Now here's SSG and Empire going toe-to-toe. It's good damage from SSG, but it's just Koi as the last remaining player, and with a slither of health, you'd imagine it's over, and it will be. Empire survive, and they'll be the team who holds this eastern side, but the zone is starting to come in fast. Empire need to move.
Well, NRG might still have one alive. Looks like actually he is going to be fun just as a solo. So Energy surviving for now, but just a box to play with. And Empire, now they have to inner team because the zone is behind them, and there is the mortar flare, there is the mother load coming in, and all of a sudden that is going to cause a few teams problems, but no more than Empire themselves, as they will be eliminated. We have 6 squads now remaining as E8 still survive.
NRG's solo player right dead slam bang center in the middle of this zone, by the way. I've seen crazier things happen, so I wouldn't say it's out of the realms of possibility. As everyone else on this building, they're kind of stacked up. So just what Snipedown was talking about, it's rare you get to see final circles where you have this many areas for elevation and teams to put themselves on top of one another, but this is certainly one of them where it can happen. Most Hated have the high ground here, and we have seen in some of the previous games today, high ground has worked out for you if there's a little lip that you can play with whilst the other teams contest each other down low.
And Most Hated are up into second place overall at the moment with this performance. Inside of the top 6, only got 1 KP at this point, but the way they've held this North Pad building has been exceptional so far. Now, can they convert this into even more points? That's the question. They still have Falcons to deal with underneath them. They have NRG, the solo, Elevate, Eternal, and Complexity still all alive. But surely they've just got to bide their time as other teams have to leave. If they can just take even a second of zone damage as the teams leave below them, they might be able to drop behind and secure some more KP.
I wonder if this opens things up for Elevate here, because they're the only team who are on the east, and they can kind of watch all of this unfold. If they can slowly move their way in and go a little bit unnoticed. Funnily enough, one of the biggest threats to Elevate right now is the solo from NRG, but zone's starting to close in, so all these teams on the west, they're moving at the same time. As you mentioned, Most Hated, they can maybe drop last because they have that lip to work with on this building.
A couple of Skynades coming in. EA, all red Evos, Devotion as well, which can make such an impact in these fights. NRG will be eliminated. The solo is taken care of. Zach Major is just spraying through the wall and hoping to connect with anything. However, the only thing he's connected with at the moment is Bangalore ults from other teams. Luxford, though, he's got to be careful. Most Hated make their play as they drop off of the high ground into the zone, but they're taking a huge amount of damage. Laser is last alive. He will fall as well. Most Hated will go down as Elevated also down to just 2. Complexity fall, and now it's just 3 squads remaining.
Oh my god, Elevate lose 1, but Falcons are still healthy, so are Eternal, and maybe this turns things around for the teams on the south. Most importantly, Falcons here.
Falcons can move in and clean this game up, and should clean this game up. There's a couple of knocks. It's not a full team. It's a case of securing the KP and securing the win now. 1 more player left alive. Take him out, boys, and call yourself champion, surely.
It's dicey.
Wait. Imperial, how is the clutch? How has this turned around so much? And how, all of a sudden, he's on the back foot. Falcons had this in the bag, and now Luxford with the knuckle cluster trying to push him away. Popping the Phoenix can Elevate win.
I'm speechless. Absolutely speechless, because you said it. Surely it's comfortable. Surely they get this one done, but Elevate are able to pull that one out of the depths. They pull like a rabbit out of a hat, it felt like. And somehow Elevate come away with the win. An incredible game all around, but a very exciting ending, and I think that one caught you off guard, Mark.
And let's jump into a listening with Falcons. That's what I'd love to see right now. I'll be honest with you, because it's a game they shouldn't really be losing, but lose it they do, and you have to give a huge amount of credit to EA and clutching up in that manner. I am a little bit speechless, honestly. You know, a team like Falcons, so well established, so versed in being so good in those end games, it's a mistake you don't see that often. Yes, it's second place. Yes, it's still some good KP for them, but the standards they set themselves, you don't expect them to lose that kind of situation.
Still has a lot of points in that game for Falcons that I think puts them into first place overall, but again, they'll watch that one back and just be like, what on earth did we just do? How did we not win that one? And I'm sure it will be in the VOD review for all of them. But the Fuse making the difference. How annoying is Fuse, by the way? When you're going up against a Fuse, the Knuckle Cluster really can be a detriment to you trying to push in, because it just taps you over and over and over again. It prods, it pokes, and it can force you to retreat. But it was just a position at the end, being able to take that high ground as well. A great game all around for Elevate.
Yeah, Elevate, like you said, they were one of the teams who were kind of furthest away from a lot of the carnage that was going down in those final moments. They controlled the east side of the zone. They managed to, most importantly, I think, take care of the solo, who was the problem, like you said. And then they managed to clutch up. Or did they clutch up? Or were they given an opportunity to win that game that maybe they shouldn't have had? We'll have to watch the VOD review. Very excited for that a little bit later. It will be Falcons in second place with 6 KP, but Elevate, 24 points, 12 kills. We were hyping up LG in the run they went on. Maybe we should have been talking more about Elevate.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it when we tuned into them, right? Full red Evos, that's always going to tell you something about a team. And they had the Devo. The Devo-Evo combo is a very dangerous one indeed. And I thought maybe they had thrown it away, but it wasn't the case. Like, they had got into a position where even as a duo, they were able to do so much damage at the end. Complexity getting 11 points on the board with the 6 kills that they found. But again, similarly to what we've seen in a lot of games today, so many kills being shared around through a lot of different teams. Everyone getting involved in fights. Only 4 teams in the entire lobby who didn't get a kill on the ball.
Yeah, TSM, not the game for them to talk about. They are down in 20th place, 0 points on the board. Oxygen really struggled today a little bit as well. And we mentioned how Not Moist have started off pretty hot today. Well, they're starting to cool off a little bit, just the 4 points for them, although they did manage to get 3 KP. But I gotta be honest, Dan, I'm a little bit like uncomposed. So lacking composure that I can't quite actually get the words out in the way that I would have wanted to. But one thing that we do want to have a quick look at, thanks to the competitive Apex Reddit, is the winner of the Cross Region Player of the Week award for week number 2. And no surprise, Dan, after that week to see Verhulst of TSM being that man.
Yeah, what a man, what a player, and what a legend he is. Incredible week that they had last week to answer a lot of questions about the team and also to back up some of the statements that Verhulst had been making as well leading into that week. So well deserved for the cross-region player of the week. Also noticing in the in-game chat between the players, Sweet asked, who was the team who got 1v3'd at the end there? He was really curious about it and seems to be poking a little bit fun at Falcons. But I am seeing that Falcons had a couple of players who were very low on ammo and perhaps they just got a little bit overconfident when they were going up against one player.
I'm honestly, I'm a little bit like thrown off by what we saw in that endgame. Congratulations to Elevate with the big win in that penultimate game though, but it sets us up again, Dan, so beautifully for this final game of the day. And it's almost a mirror of what we saw earlier, right? In EMEA, it's so close that you cannot tell who is going to come out as the champion. Will it be one of the big names? Will we have an underdog? We'll find out just after the break. Welcome back, everybody. The ALGS could not be hotter at the moment, and game number 6, the final game of the day, is just around the corner. You couldn't stop me smiling if you had to after what we've seen so far in those first 5 games. We are set up beautifully for our final game, Dan.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the overalls. I mean, again, so close to every team that's in the top 10 at the moment. Arguably, you could say that anyone within the top 9 could still win this entire thing, but only 6 points, only 7 points, only 8 points separate us between 1st and 7th at the moment. That's how close it is, and it really could be anyone's games. Yes, Team Falcons do take the lead after that good performance from them. Elevate also shoot themselves up into the top 4 as well. They're only 6 points behind, but we can watch this from Luxford's point of view. Ammo could have been an issue on the side of Falcons, but that does not take away from what was an incredible clutch from Luxford on the fuse, getting the job done.
Yeah, it's the knuckle cluster that does so much damage as well, and it's just a final little bit of zone tick. I think Hal knew that the game was done and dusted for there, but it doesn't matter too much. They won't be too sad, Team Falcons, because their performance, like you say, takes them to first place. And the super team, well, they rise up when it matters most. Only a 1-point advantage over LG, but it's a 1-point advantage, and that's all you need if you want to call yourselves the winners of this game day. So close, though. Just look all the way down. It's a couple of points separating every single team.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we could still see, Not Moist in 9th take first here. 14 points behind is not unachievable if you have a victory and get, 10 kills. Suddenly you are up there and within the conversation. You might need some fights to go in your favor elsewhere, for sure, but we saw it in EMEA, a team who was a little bit further behind, was able to pluck it right in the final match, and here we go.
Well, here we go then, everybody. Match number 6. It's in front of your very eyes, and you're lucky enough to be experiencing it with us, because this is going to be a special game to remember in the ALGS. A lot of action taking place already today, but this is what it all comes down to. Who is going to be the winner of this final game, and who is going to be the winner overall? The dropships are leaving, the players are live on the server. It's time to get this one going.
Time to rock, time to roll, and time to see if anyone can step up to the plate and compete now with Team Falcons, who are leading their charge. Despite a slow start to today's games, they have found their footing, especially here on Storm Point. But we still have to give credit where it's due for Elevate, who have now put themselves within that conversation of winning here with a mammoth game to send themselves into 4th place. It's all about Luxford on that fuse in the final moments, but will they get the opportunity to be in the final circle again to have the chance to win the entire match day? That's the big question for me. And of course, where that circle goes is really going to impact how this game is decided.
It certainly is, and I've got to say, like, EA, when we finished World's Edge, I'm pretty sure they were down in, like, the bottom 5 overall, and now they're up, like you say, right at the top of the table with an opportunity to maybe pull something off in this final game as well. It really has been a really good comeback for them, and good news for the teams down at the south. They don't have to go north for once. We are going to be going down south. Good news for SSG, good news for LG and NRG, and Not Moist as well. Probably thinking, thank goodness we don't have to go all the way to the other side of the map for once.
This could be, again, that finish in that little cranny just next to Echo, where LG are not so far away from. We saw it in EMEA, where a Watson team was able to win it because they were able to get far into it, actually. It was Passion UA got 2nd place by holding that position for quite some time. But also, there is always that possibility it pulls up towards Pylon as well. They're going to be the 2 areas where people are going to be prioritizing with where they get their positioning in the early game. I think we'll learn a lot from the teams who are in the south. Not Moist at Devastated Coast. They have a ring console. Wherever they go is going to give us a good indication of where these teams think this is going to finish.
Yeah, it's a very good opportunity as well for SSG, right? Because SSG, who have had a little bit of an up and down day, mostly down though, you would say, now have a chance to maybe with this POI that they find themselves at and where the zone is going to convert it into some points. And the same can be said for LG as well, right? Because of the fact that they have great zone prio. They also, what's happened to Sweet here? Well, he just got absolutely blasted by Reptar. That's what happened.
NRG versus LG. I mean, that's an interesting fight for many reasons, but LG are gonna have to fight as a 2 here, and their chances of winning today's match day might be falling right in front of them because Sweet gets thirsted.
Oh, this is so tough as well, because even though they've got the banner, they now have to give up one of the prio positions to go and get him back in the game. They do have a mobile res, and it might be smarter just to get out and re-enter a little bit later on, or maybe just try and find a little bit of a safer place to do it. And NRG, I mean, you talked about Apex poetry, right? NRG, take out Sweet. It writes itself. It really does.
And most of these teams are heading down towards Echo, so it probably does make me believe that my initial thoughts of it pulling southeast here and continue to do so and finishing in that cranny is likely. But what we will get is teams who are late having to resort to playing Pylon in the surrounding areas, and if there is a drastic pull, they would get pretty fortunate as now. Oxygen, who think they're probably arriving quite early here, turns out they're arriving late, and Oxygen go down, and that's going to be their day over. 18th position they were in, and they might be finishing dead last here.
I was about to say, I don't think it mattered if they were late or early. Whatever time it was the wrong time. It was just a terrible time. They get absolutely beamed by Complexity. LG say, okay, let's try this again. They do manage to get the res onto Sweet, but like I mentioned, now they've got to work their way back into the POI to try and find a spot to play. And the time it's taken them to get Sweet back in, well, there'll be teams already there.
But at least there is still the opportunity for LG, right? It was looking like it might have been quite dire, but the fact they were able to get that banner and, most importantly, had the mobile respawn beacon. Without the mobile respawn beacon, this game might have been unachievable, but they can put themselves still in one of the better positions now in the far southeast here.
No, all is good for LG. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. The one thing it would have slowed them down doing, though, is maybe potentially picking up some Evo. So now they're going to have to play this game out with white armors, which is pretty rare, to be honest, for teams at this point, especially if you're rotating early. Usually you get the opportunity with a couple of interactions across the map with harvesters, whatever it might be, to get those Evos up to at least blue. And look at this rotate, by the way, coming in from Falcons. They have made their way here already. They're playing the Broken Armory for now. They've got some decent damage out already. You can see the Zero is already 162 off of getting to purple. So with 19 squads remaining in the lobby, Falcons, who are in first position, have a chance now to really, with this game and position they find themselves in, to kind of hold destiny in their own hands.
Yeah, the teams who are already in Echo HQ, like Falcons, Not Moist, Complexity, even LG, NRG, they're all going to be the teams that are most likely to win this one with where the zone is going to be shifting, we think. But there's going to be a lot of teams who are kind of moving late and have to move late because they're coming from the north that are just going to have to deal with playing in pylon or playing on that western side and then eventually forcing their way around the mountain. And even though it is unlikely to find a victory from there, we have seen it happen before. If you can kind of wedge yourself in when everyone else is distracted and taking fights, you make your move and suddenly find a spot to call home. But there's going to be a long way until we get to that point yet, because we still have a lot of rings to get through and also a lot of playable space to be taken by some of these teams that are moving late.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about LG a little bit more as well, because obviously, you know, they chose to land at Echo. It was a pretty high priority pick for them in the POI draft because of the fact that when we do go south, and the majority of the time we are finishing on Echo HQ, right? So I think it's even more frustrating to have that situation where you play for a POI based on zone history, so to speak, where you expect the zones to be going if we do go down to the south, and then you get that opportunity kind of taken away. Yes, they've managed to get back up and they've got into a position, but it's got to be a little test of the mentals, so to speak, I would say, for them in this game, knowing what happened early on and what if they don't perform now in this game. It's almost what could have been.
We're going to get a little bit more information here as this zone closes, but I don't think it's going to come to much surprise when it does start to shift down south towards Echo HQ, and there you go. So everyone who has moved early is going to be rewarded for it. As for NGNL, who were in pylon, well, it's the inevitable, right? You couldn't really find a spot, so you try to play pylon. You hope it's going to be shifting your way. They probably won't have that information just yet because there's no ring console at pylon that they have to work with anyway. But Board is an interesting team on this western side because they're going to have to move, and they could actually disrupt some of these teams that find themselves on the west of Echo HQ as well.
I thought you were going to say NGNL are going to be bored because there's no one around them. And I was going to say, even though they don't have ring console, they're probably thinking, it's not going here because no one else is here. So it's like one of those awkward situations, like walk into a room, recognize absolutely nobody, and you go, I have entered the incorrect room of where I was meant to be. But yeah, we're going to have to see how they do play it from here. Elsewhere, as we have a little look at Cascades, this is most hated, who are making their way down. Fluffy Aim is going to be to their north as well. They had a little bit poke of each other a little bit of time ago, and most hated again, still in fourth position, but what has been a great day for them so far, with how tight the leaderboards are at the moment, it could be a really heartbreaking day for them as well if they don't perform in this game.
Yeah, especially with how far they have to come for this zone and the fact they can't even get close to being a priority team to said zone. Well, NRG, who were the team who really disrupted LG and their chances to win here, do find themselves in a pretty confident spot as well. It was that Sentinel from Reptar that was able to get that initial knock onto LG, and it might do some more damage yet in this game. We've already seen Sentinel plus 3 times from Timmy was incredible earlier on, and Reptar might just do something similar.
So many teams in and around Echo HQ right now. To give you a little bit of an idea of what teams are inside of it, it's easy to tell you who isn't. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 teams, 5 teams outside of the zone right now, which is nuts considering that we still have 19 squads alive, 18, excuse me, squads alive in this lobby. So We love the end games where everybody has a place to play for quite some time, and Echo HQ certainly does provide that. Catalyst is going to be very important in this kind of end game as well. Just being able to reinforce some of these doors to make the building playable for a little bit longer. Make sure nobody wants to push onto the position that you do hold. It's so uninviting when you see those Catalyst reinforcements up. They just know it's going to take an extra few seconds. Yes, the fuse is going to help to blow some of those doors off for sure, as we're seeing right now, but Dupe just says, cool, let me do that again.
I think with a circle like this, the catalysts are going to be very valuable, and with the amount of catalysts that we have in the lobby, I say it time and time again, a lot of responsibility goes on that catalyst, because when the dark veils start to come down, you can shift yourself between them and give your team that information and that vision that you so desperately require. Now, over towards Pylon, where teams were getting a little bit bored. Bored are moving away from it, and it's TSM, and it's going to be most hated, who are going to be the two squads that might just have to take a fight here if they want to try and find some KP, especially if you consider this is going to be shifting down to Echo HQ. TSM do have that information, so they know full well they are going to be late to the party here, and maybe they want some KP.
Yeah, TSM have a chance to maybe rescue a little bit of a day here as well. We keep repeating it, but how close the leaderboards are, right? 25 points at the moment. They're in 12th, which isn't a great day by TSM standards, but a good performance here. KP and some decent placement points, and they could find themselves way inside of that top 10 with how close things are. But for now, they're just kind of having to play the slow game. It's a difficult one to navigate, and it's going to be a real test for Zap, who's kind of stepped into the lead IGL role for TSM, to see how he navigates one of these tough zones for them to get into. Elsewhere, teams that are outside, you've got Eternal, who are wrapping all the way over on the west. You've got Fluffy Aimers, who are still at the north side of the zone, and TSM outside of that are pretty much the furthest team away from where this zone is going to be going. And, well, the zone is going to be shifting a little bit towards the northern side of where we thought it was, away from Echo HQ. And for LG, again, it's like, well, this is frustrating, because this could have been us.
Could have been them. It actually even shifts a little bit further west than the little hole in the mountain that we've seen a lot of the circles finish. Complexity are kind of still in that area, so they'll be able to play that northeast side, and they'll be able to maybe delete a few teams that arrive from the east a little bit later on. But you could argue that Not Moist and the Pioneers, who are in that central building, are going to have a lot of space to play, but just as we saw in EMEA, these buildings are not easy to hold. When people start inting, when people start trying to get involved, there's a lot of angles that can be taken. There's a lot of windows that you can get shot through, and suddenly your comfortable spot becomes very uncomfortable very quickly.
Well, Board are making a big zone wrap on the south side at the moment, and teams who are there are going to have to be very aware of them approaching. Make sure you're watching your back, boys, even when that zone has closed, because it's unpredictable, this. Taking a lot of storm damage, and they might have to heal before they get there. It's a smart decision to do so, and it looks like nobody's looking for now, so they might be able to sneak this little rotate in without going noticed. Elsewhere, I want to talk about Elevate Gaming as well, because Elevate are holding down the cannon position at the moment, and it's a really strong spot for them towards this endgame if they can hold out the teams that approach from the west. But LG, I mean, if they do it from here, they deserve to win the game, because win the day, excuse me, because White Armors this deep into the game with round 3 closing is not a great position to be in, to say the least.
I mean, actually, Board arriving from the south might be a blessing for LG if they can spot them out, get up to at least blue, or maybe even get a couple of kills and be able to steal away some loot and add to that Evo. It's going to be Yup and Board that are kind of in the sightlines of LG right now, and you spoke about Elevate. We've seen a lot of teams win this circle from this position as well, because it's just what you mentioned. You hold out the teams who arrive from the west, you get your armors up, you get all the loot that you desire, and then as the final circle closes in, you have a little bit of, excuse the pun, elevation over some of those teams that are below you in Echo HQ. Now the Fluffy Aimers might be able to red, but that doesn't matter if you're getting shot from all different directions.
Yeah, the only red that really matters for them right now is health, because they are getting pushed by TSM. Only one player alive, and it's going to be Hambino trying to do it for his team, trying to clutch. Empire Gaming have been eliminated in the meantime, and TSM will get those final kills. So some good KP here at Pylon for TSM, but now they're going to have to go through Most Hated, and this is a real opportunity for Most Hated, right? Because they are holding out TSM at the moment. TSM have just managed to get themselves up to red armors, but Most Hated, we mentioned how this could be a great day for them or a disappointing day. Well, this kind of fight is one that decides that for you.
Well, the Fluffy Aimers were in 6th position before they were eliminated, so they were in the conversation, but now it opens the door for a couple of teams that are below them. still 6 of our top 7 are alive. I mean, 7 of our top 8 are still alive. So we've only seen 4 squads drop so far, and a couple of those are down a little bit further in the leaderboard. So still anyone's game here to take this match day. Now, TSM, the trouble is with their push, they've got to try and get through not just most hated, but then Eternal, and then Elevate. It's quite literally gladiators at that point. Just after you defeat one, there is someone else waiting for you who just seems to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and a bit more well-positioned. And that might be the same case for all the teams that are arriving from either the East or the West. You're going to have to go through several squads if you want to get into the zone now.
I think the one good thing for TSM maybe is that Eternal can do some damage to Most Hated, and there is the fight taking place. TSM have no other option, and Most Hated are already down to 2. It's just a duo, and TSM are just running through them at the moment. It's the best possible scenario for TSM. They managed to take all of them down, finish off those 2 players, and stay healthy, and now they can think about hitting the evac. But this is blind. They have no idea whatsoever what is happening inside of this zone. TSM are hoping. We've seen the evacs work for them in the past. Sometimes they haven't worked for them in the past. This is a bit of a 50-50 for them as LG make their move, and Sweet is still on white armor.
Oh, this is gonna hurt as well. There's gonna take a lot of damage from this one. This isn't gonna be fun. One's already gone down. LG just as a 2 now to try and find a position to work with, try and keep their hopes of winning this match day alive, and it's just going to be down to Sweet as a solo.
I mean, the irony of Sweet, the one to survive with just the white armor, is pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. And unfortunately for LG, it is a crippling last game for them. They had such a great opportunity, but in the first few seconds, it was all scuppered. Elevate now, trying to hold out these teams on the outside, and Zach Mazer! Oh my, Zach, that is a huge spray from you.
That's a Mazer moment from Zach, but it's in the good kind, as now Elevate, they are still a 2, but they are very weak, but they get back up to a full 3, and this is what you mentioned. If you hold out that team on the West, suddenly you find yourself in one of the more commanding positions. Now they have the high ground. Complexity starting to look down on the team below them. They're not going to drop just yet, but it's SKD who do find themselves below them on the eastern side. And TSM, by the way, did make their move onto the east, and they have found a room to play with, and it is just next to Complexity and SKD.
Well, everybody in the lobby is into the placement points. NGNL, they will be eliminated. Pioneer's gone as well. SKD trying to get healthy as Falcons look to secure their spot in this final game at the top of the leaderboards. The catwall goes down. It's time for them to rotate or maybe cut off one of these teams. Instead, it looks like it is going to be a rotation. They're hunting for kills.
Yeah, Falcons still have a 4-point lead over Elevate at the moment. So there still are 2 teams to watch, but Complexity also on 46 and NRG just behind that. A few players have gone down in the kill feed. You can see Not Moist. They're under a lot of stress at the moment as Board get eliminated. Now suddenly it's 9, but Falcons, they're in a really good position to hold out these teams that are coming from the east. Their only worry is Weave, who are very nearby and could be a real threat to their position.
Well, they take a little bit of damage for the bang ult, but there's no one near them to try and really capitalize on that damage. They're going to be able to get healthy very, very easily. But TSM, look at them go. And it's Reps with the Havoc shredding through the shields and the health of Monsoon. That's the first knock that they needed, but they've got to do more. They're going to force their way into zone. Complexity eliminated, NRG eliminated as well. And are we going to see a late game, a late day run now for TSM?
TSM certainly have a chance if they can win this fight, take out SKD, and then hold this eastern side. But there's going to be a lot of teams ahead of them in the building. But these red armors are going to do them wonders. Every single fight that they take here, they're going to have an advantage. There is not too many teams on those red armors. 7 squads remain. TSM up into 10th position now. They are about 17 points behind first place. So winning this entire match day is going to be difficult from here, but certainly pushing yourself into the top 5 is possible.
Well, look at the kill feed. You can see a Skynade from Zyno has taken down Imperial Howl, and it's going to be 0 now left on his own as Gen will go down as well. So huge nades coming in from Zyno from SSG as with the battle of the super teams seems to continue. The question is, can Zero find a position to get that res off? Instead, he's going to have to use the knockdown shield for now. The smoke will go down as well. Question is there a respawn beacon? Yes, there is one right next to them. They do as well have the banner, so there's an opportunity for Falcons to get back into the game, but the scans are coming in, the nades are coming in as well, and Zero's got to play this perfect.
Yeah, Jen Burton's gone down. Zero a chance to maybe reset once more. All the meanwhile, by the way, Elevate is still holding this western side, and Elevate have a massive opportunity of going back-to-back here and potentially winning this match week. But still, TSM have survived with Reds here. They're going to be a threat to this. Not Moist also can do damage from the northern side. We've already seen, but Zero has the Bangalore, has the smokes, and will try and stick this and succeeds. Falcons back in the game.
Well, TSM are going to make their play. They have to push. They're going to have to walk through and be a little bit blind on this wall, but it doesn't matter if you're blind because Verholt don't miss too many bullets. However, a third party now coming in for them. It's going to be reps down to 1 HP. TSM are eliminated, and it's Weave who do that damage. Should be able to get these shield swaps in as well to hold off another push, and it's Moist who are looking to clean up these pieces now.
Not Moist, Weave, SSG, they're all in kind of the same area at the moment, and they've all taken a considerable amount of damage. Weave have been able to reset thanks to the armor swaps, and now for them, it's about pushing out, but look on the other side. They have to take this fight, and you've got to push through a bit of a choke here.
Cutter down to just a slither of health in this situation. Moist are trying to push off that damage, but now Falcons are getting focused by SSG, and How is down again. And even though the reset comes in, this might be one push too many. Zero's pulled off some magical things already so far in this game, but this might just be one hurdle too many. If he can survive a few seconds longer, there's an opportunity maybe for some more placement points, and the Death Box will provide him, at least with a shield swap. And they will survive for now, but SSG will be more than aware of his location. They will be trying to, excuse the pun, zero in on this position.
If he can get into the top 3 ratting out, there's still a chance the Falcons can walk away with the match win today, or the match day win, but it's Elevate, as now Falcons eliminated. Elevate are only 2 points behind Falcons here, and they've taken prime position.
They have taken the high ground, and that knuckle cluster is doing so much damage. It's more kills for Elevate, and they might be about to go back to win this game. Moist trapped down on that low ground, though. They may be in a position where you might even be thinking about a heal-off. Elevate are looking for the KP they need to win this on their own, though. And now it's all on to Luxford and Slayer. They get those KP, and they go into first place. Not Moist eliminated, SSG eliminated. It's all up to Elevate, but they should have done enough here.
Should have done enough and will have done enough, but maybe Weave can maybe pull something out here to find the victory. Or will we see something? No, we won't. It's gonna be Weave who get the victory in match number 6, but it is Elevate who are going to take the entire series here today as they pit Falcons right at the punch, and it is an incredible day of action. It was back and forth, but it's back-to-back scenarios here where Elevate get into the final circle and put big points on the board.
Amazing final 2 games coming in from Elevate here on Storm Point. Back-to-back wins is difficult to do in any lobby, let alone when the POI draft is here, and let alone when the zones are so varied as well. Keep in mind, that was a North Pad zone that they won before, and then they just won the Echo HQ one. So 2 completely different ends of the map for Elevate to try and navigate their way through, and they do it so well that they get those back-to-back wins. Back-to-back wins. It's not back-to-back wins, but a second place in that second game to close the day out in first place. Dan, you can't ask for more, right? You can't ask for more from your IGL, from your players, to put those 2 performances together when it matters most in those final 2 games.
Yeah, back-to-back big point games, I think, is the point I was trying to make. Weave, though, I mean, they were able to maneuver their way through the map where they kind of disrupted a few teams at the end, and they just found a slightly weak Elevate right at the perfect time towards that end game. And you mentioned it, there could have been a potential for a heal-off had they not made that move, but I think we've recognized that they needed to be aggressive, and they were rewarded for said aggression. I think it's a shame for Falcons when they look back at it, because they were so close, and especially if they could have found that victory in the previous game. LG might be a little bit jaded after that one as well, especially with where the finish was and losing that first player early on, but so many different variables in that game. But ultimately, it is E8 who come out on top, and you have to tip your hat where credit's due, right?
Yeah, an amazing performance. I'd love to see the change in positions. I mentioned, before we moved into Storm Point, it felt like E8 were right down at the bottom of the table, especially after 1 or 2 games on World's Edge. And to come back in the way that they have to win the game day shows it's never over until it's over. Weave, a huge congratulations to you for taking home that game at number 6 with 11 kills, by the way, 23 points overall. But like we've been saying, it's the story of Elevate. It's the story of Storm Point for them, where they came back into form, and 9 kills is the difference maker for them to put those 18 points on the board down, to put them in a great position and top of the pile.
SSG make a late run to try and push themselves up the leaderboards, but they don't really push themselves up far enough, especially when you consider that Falcons and SSG were the two big leaders coming into today. But Falcons will now be starting to create a gap between themselves and the SSG. TSM have a good game to put themselves into the top 11, but sadly they don't quite break into the top 10 in the overalls. But if we look at the second page here of that particular game, as I mentioned, LG going to feel a little bit jaded. Oxygen Esports, they were eliminated very early as well, which put them down in last position for today. That is heartbreak for Oxygen, especially after they've had some success in previous weeks, but today just really wasn't their day. Glitter, you've been watching and waiting in the wings. Fantastic game all around, very exciting. I think every match today has been like having us on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, I think all of the teams really brought it here today. I think everyone's starting to figure out how to best work with whatever POI they get in that week's draft and really adapting their gameplay around it. We're seeing lots of different teams finding success as a result of that, which we've now heard multiple players say to us, whether that in regards to how much they like the draft system or how much we've talked about it when we're watching these matches. We'll take a look back at the final circles from matches 4 through 6 as we continue kind of harping on just how good the matches were once we made our way over to Storm Point. With this first match of the day, it was all LG. I mean, to be fair, we talked about it, just how well Falcons was doing holding that southeast choke, but it was LG who made a really solid call suite with some fantastic IGLing here today to push through, win the fight with MPIRE, and claim the God spot here, so that all they had to do was allow everybody else who was struggling on their pushes in to come straight into LG's clutches and just close this up. I mean, we said it time and time again just how strong Funk did as well, just melting anybody that came across his path mark. Match 4, LG did phenomenally.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing those shots on repeat, right? Zero so close to getting behind that wall, maybe being able to heal, and we knew he had that Kraber, and there might have been a very different situation, but those shots were almost perfect from the Hemlock. Some great shots, the headshots to clean it up. It was one of my favorite kills I've seen in quite some time.
And then, of course, as we got into match number 5, this is where it got eerily reminiscent of what we saw in EMEA, okay? You guys had mentioned that there was a possibility, because of how close the leaderboard was, for some of these teams that are right on that bubble to start making a push and potentially claim that first place spot. Well, with an insane 1v1 where I think both of you thought it was for sure going to go the way of the Falcons, it ends up going the way of Elevate, and we'll get a little bit of another look here just to see exactly what happened. It definitely was an ammo issue there at the end, I think, on behalf of Hal, so you can see that they were in a rough spot, but a massive clutch up here on behalf of Elevate. The Luxford with that knuckle cluster at the end for like the ultimate disrespect on the win here. Match number 5 was just really fun, Dan.
Yeah, I think it was lack of ammo for both Zero and Hal. Maybe overconfidence for sure, and did it come to bite them in the backside? In the end, they lost by 5 points. So a victory plus 3 points for the kills. Maybe Team Falcons could have come out on top in the overall here, but we can't really take anything away from Elevate and how they played, not only clutching up in that moment, but also in this game, getting themselves into the final circle. It wasn't quite a win, but it would have felt like a win because they pushed themselves to #1 on the leaderboard with those kills onto SSG, and then sadly just didn't really get the chance to properly reset before Weave came in to clean up and get their victory, and also a victory that sent Weave into the top 10, 8th position. We've found themselves after that one, and we can get confirmation of that here, Lauren, with the series results.
To be fair, Slayer at the end there was melting people the best that he could.
I thought he had it. Yeah. For a second.
It was close as we finally get to look at what the exact point disparity was across all of our squads. Elevate in first with 58 total points above Team Falcons mark. Today was a really good day.
It was an extremely enjoyable day of Apex Legends in the ALGS, and Complexity. I mean, amazing performance from them again, right? It's another team that keeps putting in these performances week after week, and another 3rd place for them here is a great result for them. LG, I think, will be happy with 4th at the end of the day, but maybe thought that they could have at least taken 3rd if that game would have gone a little bit further their way, maybe even a little bit more. But SKD, decent game for them, a decent game day for them as well. They had a win today as well. And at the other end of the table, TSM not quite performing in the same way that we saw them last time, but that last game kind of rescued them a little bit with some big kills, some decent placements as well. But at the other end, I think Oxygen Esports, a little bit of a struggle for them, and SSG, who have been so good. Maybe this is a little bit of a reality check for them today.
I mean, it's another instance too where it's just so hard for these teams to even get a step up in those leaderboards, Dan, because we had 4 or 5 ties there at the end. So absolutely insane performance on behalf of a lot of our squads here today. We have to talk about some individuals that hit fantastic performances as well, specifically the MVP, and might have clutched it here at the end, but for me, it's gotta be Zach Mazer, okay? We talked about it at LAN, how we could get some Mazer magic. Did it here again in match day 4 for Elevate Gaming. I mean, last time these two groups saw each other, Elevate was in 18th. This time around, they end up clutching the entire thing. And we saw lots of KP coming out of Luxford and Slayer. They were absolutely carrying their own weight, but with Zach as the IGL, getting them into these positions where they can make these clutch plays, where they can close out these matches, and they can get the points on the board that they needed. It all comes down to Zach for me. I mean, Mark, you even said it when you're talking about it. It was Northpad and Echo HQ and Stormpoint, 2 completely different zones. And the positioning, those calls would have all been made by Zach. And look at the damage, also making sure that he's getting his side of the effort being put in. I mean, almost 5k damage, 12 kills to Zach Mazer. I don't know if there are any more good things you can say about his performance here today. So for me, MVP 4NA had to be Zach Mazer. So not only congratulations on the win for the day, but congratulations to being MVP as well, as we get a chance to look at the regular season standings and see what it's done to everybody. Team Falcons didn't get the series win, but enough points to keep pushing them to the top of this leaderboard, really increasing the gap that they had over SSG here, Mark.
Yeah, very good day for Falcons. Maybe not the perfect day for them, but they'll take second place. SSG, on the flip side of that, a very disappointing day, and that's why you're seeing that gap really start to extend for Team Falcons. The super team looking like the super team at the moment. LG holding down 3rd place as well. A day that maybe could have been better for them, but they will be content with their final placing here. Means that they will hold down that 3rd place position. And TSM, like I say, that last game might have been enough for them to keep hold of that 4th place for now.
We take a look here at the second page as well. We can see that Elevate able to jump up, now tied with CCE. I mean, 25s though for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots here in this middle ground, Dan. Things are not about to get any easier as we continue through this split.
Yeah, it's going to be very close, especially in the mid-table, but now this is the worrying portion of said table, especially for those teams who have played 3 and find themselves behind teams who have only played 2. Yup. NGNL, MPIRE, and even Eternal. I think they're all going to be left scratching their head a little bit, hoping that future weeks are going to be a little bit better, and maybe hoping that some of the other teams that are around them also perform poorly tomorrow so that they get a better chance to catch them up when it's their match week once more.
All right, well, we got a chance to talk about him individually after a phenomenal performance with Elevate. We also want to bring Zach Mazer on to talk directly to him about their performance. First of all, congratulations on a great way to close out the series here today, Zach. So tell me how the team's feeling right now.
I mean, obviously going double 19th the other weekend and then chaining that into a first, it kind of puts us back in the running if we really earn it. And, you know, being dead last place in Pro League after last weekend, everyone's really happy, almost like a very high state of like emotion, because you don't really see a lot of bounce backs right like that. You don't see teams get 19th twice, get that down on each other and themselves, and then, you know, show up to work the next week and win.
Zach, firstly, congratulations on not just the comeback in Pro League, but the comeback today as well, because World's Edge was a little bit shaky for you, but the last 2 games on Stormpoint were absolutely fantastic. And we were talking about how it's not just enough to talk about how good those games were from like a positional, you know, win points, whatever it might be. The fact that they were such different zones when it comes to one's at the extreme north, one's at the extreme south, and you manage them both so well. Tell me about how the preparation is for you as an IGL now with the POI draft, trying to draw up some plans for different zones based on where you're going to be playing from. What kind of challenges are you facing now as a player?
Yeah, I mean, it completely changed the game. Definitely having a coach and players that are smart help a lot, right? You know, like you're dishing plays back and forth. You're constantly talking about what we can do from these brand new POIs. You only play like 1 or 2 times, you know? And when everyone can give feedback and try to help each other, it definitely, you know, eases the weight. Definitely makes it easier. But as far as Cenote, right? That was our 1 POI. And then our other one was Survey Camp and Epicenter. As far as the prep goes for that, I've played from Survey Epi for a long time, like many years. So our macro for that was pretty preset. And then this is my first time ever playing from C-Note. And the game plan from C-Note is exactly how Aurora actually drew it up. It's literally just max your armor as high as you can get it with the car and then play the game. So that's what we were doing. And we really worked our ass off today, team fighting. I mean, yeah, I may have gotten the MVP, but really hats off to Slayer. I mean, he's had a hell of a career so far, and he had the most kills on the day. I know I had second most, but 14 kills out of Slayer. A lot of people like to talk shit about him, but he really showed up today and proved a lot of people wrong, and that's a big deal.
And that's always going to be a good feeling, proving anyone wrong. And speaking of good feelings, match number 5. I'd love to get your thoughts on what happened in that final circle, because watching it from Falcons' point of view, we were a little bit bemused.
Okay, so obviously after getting to talk to them in the game 5 to game 6 like segment, we later learned that they were like running out of ammo. But I mean, again, we're talking about the team in dead last of Pro League. You know, we're coming into that game 5, you know, in like 8th place, like 27 points down on first. And, you know, Luxford gets a full-on 1v3. I know they had no ammo. They did play it very, very poorly. But there's just not a lot of players that could pull that off and have the composure in the end game right there to believe in themselves and think they could pull it off. And we were so proud of Luxford, and I'm really happy. Definitely talked a lot about Slayer and his MVP performance, but Slayer doesn't get that performance without Luxford doing that to Falcons of all teams.
No, I mean, across the board, you guys just really came together as a trio here today. Obviously, we still have a decent amount of time left in Split 2, and you said, you know, you feel like you guys can do it as long as you kind of knuckle down and really take it seriously. So what does that look like for you guys to keep this momentum going now into the upcoming match days that you have?
Well, yeah, just to be clear, we're 1 week ahead of the other lobbies. We should get pushed to around 15th after the other group plays. When it's all set up and even. With that being said, we still have to earn it. I have a lot of faith in us. I think if we average around a 6th or better, 7th or better, we should make the LAN. And in the history of ALGS, there's never been a team that has 2 bottom 5 placements that has made a LAN. So we would be the first team to do that. And that would definitely show a lot of, what's the word? I don't know the word, but you guys know what I'm saying.
Resilience. Resilience.
Thank
you.
you.
What you're looking for.
Great word.
I was thinking some other words, but maybe they're not broadcast appropriate.
It was resilient. Yeah. Nailed it.
I love that stat. That's a really, really cool stat, Zach. So once again, congratulations to all 3 of you on a phenomenal day. Well-deserved win here, and look forward to seeing what you guys bring to the table for the rest of the season.
Yep. See you guys tomorrow.
Let's go. All right. I mean, that'll be definitely an opportunity to try and continue some of the momentum here today, getting to go straight from today into the next match day being tomorrow instead of having to wait a week, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect time to play, right? You want to play when you're hot. You want to play when you're coming off the back of a couple of good performances. And there's a couple of things that Zach said there that really kind of resonated with me. He wants to give a lot of props to Slayer. Obviously, Slayer's had a lot of, shall we say, pushback from whoever it might be, doubting him for whatever reason, and he played extremely well today. Like Zach said, he was the kill leader, most kills on his team. Zach as well has been one of those players who's been doubted in the past, and I really feel like there's like almost a brotherhood on that team. Everybody wants to see each other succeed because they've been sharing a similar story, right? And I think that once they start to find a little bit of a groove, we know that there's great players on that team. EA have proved it today, and I expect them to keep going and run that momentum tomorrow and for the rest of the season too.
Yeah, all right. And before I let you guys go, Dan, final thoughts from you as well. Mark, we're counting those as your final thoughts.
There were some great final thoughts from Mark, as always. I'm keen to see what happens tomorrow with Falcons, most importantly, because they really have an opportunity now to create an insane gap if they have a good day tomorrow. I mean, I think that the fact that they've separated themselves from SSG, the question about, you know, the super teams and everything like that, SSG start to fall away a little bit and eyes back onto Falcons. But I think most importantly, something from that interview as well, that the Falcons are beatable. They are not gods who are untouchable. You can take them down, and other teams will be able to do so and will have fights that they achieve so. But I think it's the consistency from Falcons that is really something we have to give credit for here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've seen lots of teams really stepping it up. This split, the POI draft system, having opened up some opportunities for squads, and just the overall level of competitiveness, it gets harder every single split, and a lot of these teams are stepping up to the plate. But it's time for us to say goodbye to the two of you. As always, you did phenomenally in your cast, so thank you so much for lending your voices to all of our matches here today. And we'll finish by signing off with everybody here at home. Now, you guys heard Zach say it, okay? You might be done watching our Apex Legends action here today, but we have an ALGS packed weekend, all right? Back-to-back match days, so make sure you tune in tomorrow to see what happens during match day 5. It'll be EMEA kicking off the day, 6 p.m. BST, 1 p.m. ET, and 10 a.m. PT. And then, of course, we will head into our NA match day 5 immediately after that. So you're going to want to come back to check it all out. It's going to be a really fun day. But if you can't make it, or if you miss any of the action that happened here today, don't worry, because you can always follow us on social media at Play Apex Esports on X and YouTube, or at Play Apex on Twitch. That way you'll get all of your ALGS updates and you won't miss a single second of any of our action. Now, we're all done for today, but tomorrow will be here before you know it. So to pass the time, go play some Apex, rest up, and prepare for another exciting day of ALGS. We'll see you tomorrow, Legends.
I said we on fire, never been, never fold. Listen, man, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke. Nah, you don't want no smoke. Hey, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke. Nah, you don't want no smoke. Hey, you don't want no smoke. Fire, my whole team on fire, dominating down to the wire. I said we on fire, never been, never fold. Listen, man, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke. Nah, you don't want no smoke. Hey, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke. Nah, you don't want no smoke. Hey, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke. Nah, you don't want no smoke. Hey, you don't want no smoke. You don't want no smoke.